Chapter 1479. Fatty smiled embarrassedly and immediately attacked, easily destroying a swarm of blood-devouring bees that pounced at him. Lu Zheng smiled and said, with Fatso joining us, you don't have to worry anymore. Humph. I finally understand that all of you are treating me like a vase. I don't need your protection. White Dragon Battle Suit. Lu Hong snorted coldly, and wisps of battle chi appeared. Her body emitted a dazzling radiance. A white battle suit materialized on her body. The battle suit was in the style of a long skirt. It was as light as a feather and as soft as silk. The moment the battle suit appeared, Lu Hong's cultivation also surged by 4 small realms. Her sleeves fluttered, and her hair danced. Her entire body was enveloped by the radiance, and she exuded a sacred aura. At this moment, she was like a fairy who had returned from the heavens, displaying her beautiful figure. Damn! Lu Zheng was once again dumbfounded. Fatso smiled sinisterly. Her white dragon technique is similar to my dragon transformation technique, so don't underestimate her. Shut up! Lu Hong glared at him and shouted. Then, she swept past Lu Zheng and charged into the swarm of bees. How is it? Don't you feel very unconfident now? Fatso moved to Lu Zheng's side and laughed softly. Get lost. Lu Zheng's face darkened. He looked at Lu Hong's back, and a look of amazement flashed across his eyes. He muttered, this is the woman that I, Lu Zheng, want. Wait for me. He hurriedly chased after her. It's over. This kid has gone berserk. Fatso shook his head. The Spirit Serpent Emperor glanced at Lu Zheng and Lu Hong, then turned to look at Fatso and said angrily, I say, do you guys understand the situation? Do you still have the mood to joke at a time like this? This is called mentality, do you understand? Don't be so serious. Even if we die in the end, we have to die happily. Fatso chuckled and quickly chased after him. Die happily? The Spirit Serpent Emperor was stunned for a moment before it cursed angrily, what a bunch of lunatics. Qin Feiyang followed behind the 3 people and 1 beast. Originally, he wanted to help. But when he saw Lu Hong and Lu Zheng's situation, he had an idea. Why not help the 2 of them? Initially, he had noticed that the way Lu Hong looked at Lu Zheng was slightly different from before. He was touched. There was warmth. There was also a trace of complicated feelings. This meant that regardless of their current relationship, at least Lu Zheng had already opened Lu Hong's heart. This was an opportunity. He had long known about Lu Hong's feelings for him. However, feelings could not be forced, so he could only apologize. Therefore, he sincerely hoped that Lu Hong and Lu Zheng could be together. After all, Lu Zheng had both the family background and the talent he needed. Most importantly, after spending some time together, he realized that Lu Zheng was actually a very responsible man even though he appeared to be a wanton and unrestrained person. Moreover, Lu Zheng was also his cousin. He was relieved that Lu Hong and Lu Zheng were together. Although Lu Hong did not have any feelings for Lu Zheng now, feelings were something that could be cultivated slowly. Especially in this kind of life and death environment and atmosphere, it was easy to develop feelings for each other. After all, women all yearned for a man to stand in front of them and protect them. Boom! Crack! The 3 people and 1 beast unleashed their iron-blooded methods and killed crazily, leaving behind a sea of corpses. Let's work harder. If nothing goes wrong, we can definitely kill our way out. Fatso roared excitedly as if he had been injected with chicken blood. You want to escape? Are you dreaming? But before he finished speaking, a bone-chilling voice suddenly sounded not far away. Fatso raised his eyebrows and looked up. He saw a fan-sized blood-devouring bee laughing at him, its eyes full of mockery. You dare to laugh at me? You really don't know what's good for you. Fatso was furious. He jumped up and pounced on the blood-devouring bee like an arrow. Hee, the blood-devouring bee laughed sinisterly and retreated like lightning. At the same time, it raised its head and let out an ear-piercing shriek. Not good. Lu Hong's expression changed and she shouted, "It's informing the 9-star combat emperor's blood-devouring bee. Don't tangle with it, leave quickly." Fatso's heart also sank. He quickly returned to Lu Hong and Lu Zheng's side and tried his best to kill the swarm of bees in front of him. "I hope Gong Sunbei and the others can stall the 9-star combat emperor's blood-devouring bees." The spirit snake emperor was worried. Although Fatso and Lu Hong had shown their true strength, they were still a little weak against the 9-star combat emperor's blood-devouring bees. As for Lu Zheng, even if he mastered the fire phoenix art, it would be difficult for him to fight against the swarm of blood-devouring bees. "Damn humans, you killed so many of our people. Go to hell." Suddenly, accompanied by angry roars, more than a dozen blood-devouring bees charged over like lightning. Wherever they passed, the earth trembled and mountains shattered. Moreover, they were different from the netherworld bees here. They were as big as a dustpan and their terrifying aura swept in all directions. "They are all 9-star combat emperors." Qin Feiyang glanced at the blood-devouring bees and muttered to himself. He then turned back to look at Fatso and the others. At this moment, Fatso and the other two and the spirit snake emperor were running for their lives. But there were too many blood-devouring bees in front of them. Moreover, seeing the 9-star combat emperor's blood-devouring bees charging over, they became even crazier and continued to charge forward. This made it impossible for Fatso and the others to unleash their maximum speed. Seeing that the 9-star combat emperor's blood-devouring bees were about to reach them, Lu Zheng gritted his teeth and suddenly turned around. With a destructive aura, he charged forward. Fatso roared, "Lu Zheng, what are you doing?" Lu Zheng roared without turning back, "I will stay behind to stop them." "You guys go quickly." "No. If you want to go, let's go together," Lu Hong said. "Don't be silly. From the moment we were surrounded by them, I already knew that we would not be able to escape today. You guys go quickly. It is better for me to sacrifice myself than to be completely annihilated," Lu Zheng said without turning back. A wave of fire soared into the sky. A divine seal as big as a mountain and a phoenix surrounded by divine light instantly appeared above his head, exuding a monstrous divine aura. These were the first and second forms of the fire phoenix technique: fire phoenix seal, phoenix cry. "I did not expect that I, Lu Zheng, would actually fall into the hands of you beasts here. Fortunately, my little cousin is not here. Otherwise, he would definitely laugh at me. Come on, let me see how capable you are." Lu Zheng raised his head and laughed wildly. The fire phoenix seal expanded in the wind, shaking the sky and whistling forward. Chirp. At the same time, the phoenix circling in the sky also let out a high-pitched phoenix cry. A formless sound wave immediately surged towards the dozen blood-devouring bees like a tidal wave. Ants. However, facing the two great divine techniques, the blood-devouring bees were completely fearless. Blood-colored battle chi surged out of their bodies, turning into a torrent that flooded the sky and surged out in all directions. Boom! High up in the sky, the fire phoenix seal met the blood-colored battle chi first. With a deafening sound, the fire phoenix seal shattered on the spot. Following closely, the blood-colored battle chi rushed toward the sound wave with irresistible force. The sound wave could not stop it at all. Puff! Lu Zheng spat out blood from his mouth. This was the difference in cultivation level. And it was an overwhelming difference. Even if Lu Zheng had a divine technique, he could not reverse the situation. Boom! Under the impact of the blood-colored battle chi, the fire phoenix let out a wail and collapsed. After the fire phoenix collapsed, the blood-colored battle chi rushed toward Lu Zheng again. That shocking murderous aura and that unresolvable ferocity made him feel as if he had fallen into a bottomless abyss. His body and mind were cold. He hurriedly turned his head to look behind and saw that Lu Hong, Fatso, and the phantom snake emperor were still there. He could not help but shout anxiously, "What are you waiting for? Hurry up and leave." The 2 people and 1 beast were not idle either. They fought with the other blood-devouring bees. It was hard to tell who would win. Impossibly stupid. Lu Zheng cursed angrily. He turned to stare at the blood-devouring bees and shouted, "The 3rd style of the fire phoenix technique, Emperor of all spirits." As soon as he said this, the sky changed color. Blood-red clouds rolled in from the horizon. The sky above turned into a sea of fire in an instant. The void and the ground were illuminated in red light. Boom! In the next moment, a divine statue appeared above Lu Zheng. It was a middle-aged man. He was 7 feet tall and straight like an iron pine tree. He stood on the fire phoenix and held a long spear in his hand. His sharp eyes looked down at the world like an emperor who ruled over all directions. He was domineering and domineering. Ancestor of the Lu family, Qin Feiyang looked at the divine statue with respect in his eyes. He had seen this divine statue in the Lu family's land of inheritance. It was also this divine statue that had given him the inheritance. "Ancestor, it's up to you whether or not we can escape alive today." The Lu family looked at the divine statue and muttered to himself. His eyes were filled with murderous intent as he waved his hand. Clang! The divine statue took a step forward and stomped on the blood-colored battle chi. A loud explosion shook the heavens and the earth. The divine statue was immediately sent flying. Lu Zheng spat out a mouthful of blood, but he did not dare to look away. He stared at the divine statue and roared in his heart. "Ancestor, work harder and crush it." Boom! The divine statue stomped again and the blood-colored battle chi finally dissipated. The dozens of blood-devouring bees also suffered from the backlash and spat out blood. Ha! Ancestor's power is indeed impressive. Kill! Lu Zheng laughed wildly and roared. The divine statue immediately turned around and stepped into the air. He raised the long spear in his hand and slashed at the dozens of blood-devouring bees. Thousands of spear shadows shattered the earth. Thousands of blood-devouring bees did not even have time to scream before they turned into a bloody mist. "Human, you deserve to die." The dozens of 9-star combat Emperor blood-devouring bees were furious when they saw this scene. Boom! Blood-colored waves rose from behind them. More than a dozen beasts appeared in an instant. These were their fighting souls. The appearance of the fighting souls was the same as their bodies. But the difference was, the size of the fighting souls was very large. Each fighting soul was a few hundred feet tall, like a huge mountain. Moreover, these fighting souls were not only blood-red, but their eyes were also glowing with a touch of golden light as if they were cast in gold. Roar! Chapter 1480. Boom! Divine light bloomed in the sky. More than a dozen fighting souls whizzed over. Accompanied by loud clanging sounds, the long spear collapsed and the statue was destroyed. Lu Zheng was sent flying, blood gushing out of his mouth. His face was drained of blood. But there was still one fighting soul left. This fighting soul shook the sky and roared towards Lu Zheng. Looking at this scene, Qin Feiyang shook his head. There was no doubt that the fire phoenix technique was powerful, but Lu Zheng's cultivation was still too weak. Quick! At the same time, Fatso shouted. The 2 men and 1 beast quickly killed a bloody path in front of Lu Zheng. Their battle chi surged and turned into a huge wave that rushed towards the fighting soul. Lu Zheng's expression changed and he shouted, "You are no match for it. Get out of the way." But it was too late. The fighting soul whizzed over and the huge wave was instantly annihilated. Fatso, Lu Zheng, and the Phantom Serpent Emperor were immediately sent flying. Their bodies were shattered and blood stained the ground. Lu Zheng said angrily, "Why are you so stupid? I told you to run, so run. What are you waiting for? If we die together. If we live together. Lu Hong said. Lu Zheng was furious. But suddenly, he rolled his eyes and got up in a sorry state. He staggered to Lu Hong's side and said, "Don't tell me you can't bear to part with me. Get lost." Lu Hong was extremely angry. Why was he still so frivolous at this time? "I'm not frivolous. Can't you see that I'm very serious?" Lu Zheng looked aggrieved. He looked up at the fighting soul roaring and sighed. "Hong, since you're going to die anyway, can you promise me a small request?" "What?" Lu Hong got up and looked at him in confusion. Lu Zheng said, "Kiss me." "Are you asking for a beating?" Lu Hong's face was dark. "This is my only wish. Won't you fulfill it?" Lu Zheng looked at her pitifully. Lu Hong was so angry in her heart. In a life and death situation, he actually had the mood to think about these things. What was in this person's head? Suddenly, Lu Zheng took the initiative to lean forward and gave Lu Hong a fierce kiss on her face without holding back. Lu Hong was stunned. How dare he sneak attack her? She touched her face and glared at Lu Zheng, feeling her cheeks burning. "It smells so good. Now, I can die without regrets." Lu Zheng chuckled and turned to look at Zhan Hun. A cold glint flashed in his eyes. Without turning his head, he shouted, "I'll give you another chance. Leave now." Boom! Waves of fire soared into the sky like giant dragons. Fourth style, rising from the ashes. Chirp! In an instant, a huge fire phoenix spread its wings and flew out from the waves of fire. Its body was tens of thousands of feet long. When it spread its wings, it blotted out the sky and covered the sun. Its divine might rolled out in all directions. "Go!" Lu Zheng roared. However, the two men and one beast did not leave. They rushed to Lu Zheng's side and stood side by side. The battle chi in their sea of chi poured out without reservation. Lu Zheng glared at them angrily. "Don't say anything. As a brother, I can't leave you behind and escape alone." Fatso waved his hand. Lu Hong and Spirit Snake Emperor's eyes were also incomparably firm. "You guys." Sigh. Lu Zheng sighed and said with a smile, "Hong, Yes." Lu Hong replied. Lu Zheng said, "If we survive this disaster, can you promise me a small request?" Again? The corners of Fatso and Spirit Snake Emperor's mouth twitched. Lu Hong also looked at him warily. "Don't worry. I won't do any more surprise attacks. I just want to say that if we survive this disaster, can you promise me to go on a date with me?" Lu Zheng said helplessly. Lu Hong hesitated, but looking at the approaching battle soul, she gritted her teeth and nodded. "If we can really escape this disaster, I promise you." Lu Zheng suddenly laughed and shouted, "For this date, even if I have to risk my life, I have to escape. Kill." He waved his hand, and the fire phoenix in the sky roared and pounced on the battle soul with a destructive aura. With a loud bang, the battle soul disintegrated and dissipated into the world. The fire phoenix soared into the sky, flames surging around its body, and continued to pounce on more than a dozen blood-devouring bees. Is there any use in struggling? The blood-devouring bees' eyes were full of contempt. Blood-colored battle chi surged. A blood dragon condensed and formed. Roar! Chirp! The dragon and phoenix fought, and the world lost its color. Boom! The stalemate lasted for a moment. With a deafening sound, the fire phoenix disintegrated. Puff! Lu Zheng's body and mind trembled. He could not stop retreating, and his life force was gradually dissipating. Lu Zheng! Lu Hong quickly turned and ran up, grabbing Lu Zheng's arm, her face full of concern. Hee. Seeing you worry about me, even if I die, it's worth it. However, I won't die so easily. Rebirth, Fire Phoenix. Lu Zheng grinned and roared into the sky. Rebirth? Lu Hong, Fatso, and the Spirit Serpent Emperor were surprised. Chirp. In the next moment, a shocking scene appeared. The fire phoenix that had been disintegrated by the blood dragon appeared again and collided with the blood dragon in the sky. Destructive waves of air swept in all directions. The 2 humans and 1 beast were dumbfounded. This is the 4th style of the fire phoenix technique, rising from the ashes. As long as I don't die, it will continue to be reborn. Lu Zheng said proudly. Fatso said in surprise, if that's the case, doesn't that mean we're invincible? Wrong. If my cultivation was higher by 2 or 3 small realms, would indeed be invincible. But now, defeat is only a matter of time. Lu Zheng sighed. Fatso's heart sank as he looked around. The other blood-devouring bees were also charging towards them from all directions. It was a sea of blood. Who knew how many there were? Facing such a situation, was there any hope of survival? Suddenly, the swarm of bees that were surging towards them stopped. The few of them were surprised. What was going on? Why did they stop? But then, an even more surprising scene appeared. The blood-devouring bees from all directions not only stopped, but also began to retreat quickly. The 3 humans and 1 beast looked at each other, then raised their heads in unison and looked at the dozen or so 9-star combat emperor blood-devouring bees. But the result disappointed them greatly. The dozen or so blood-devouring bees had no intention of retreating. The blood dragon had also been fighting with the fire phoenix. What does this mean? The 3 humans and 1 beast were puzzled. Why did the other blood-devouring bees retreat? Suddenly, a strong sense of uneasiness swept through their bodies and minds. The 3 humans and 1 beast quickly scanned their surroundings. There was nothing unusual around. But the ground under their feet began to tremble violently. Boom! In the next moment, the ground cracked open, and a blood-devouring bee the size of a dustpan burst out from the ground. Retreat! Lu Zheng's expression changed, and he quickly retreated with Lu Hong and the other 2, as well as the Phantom Snake Emperor. But that blood-devouring bee also had the cultivation of a 9-star combat emperor, and it was as fast as lightning, heading straight for Lu Zheng. Bastard! You are 9-star emperor beasts, and you actually used such a despicable method of sneak attack. How despicable! Lu Zheng roared angrily. But before he finished speaking, the ground behind him also cracked open, and another blood-devouring bee the size of a dustpan swept out like lightning. The appearance of this blood-devouring bee was simply too unexpected. The 3 humans and 1 beast couldn't help but close their eyes in despair. But at this moment, a white figure suddenly appeared behind them. It was Qin Feiyang. He looked at the blood-devouring bee with murderous intent surging in his eyes. He raised his hand and slapped it, and a golden light swept out. Return formula. Returning the favor to oneself. The golden light surged out, and the blood-devouring bee was immediately sent flying. Its huge body directly exploded in the void, and blood splattered across the sky. Sensing the familiar aura behind them, Fatso and the others opened their eyes, and a trace of surprise crept up in their eyes. But just as they were about to turn their heads to look, Qin Feiyang flashed and appeared in front of them. Qin Feiyang. Looking at the extremely familiar back, the 3 humans and 1 beast were wild with joy. Sorry, I only just arrived. Qin Feiyang smiled without turning his head, and slapped the air again. The golden light burst out, and the blood-devouring bee in front of him also died on the spot. Your cultivation, Lu Zheng sized up Qin Feiyang in surprise. I just broke through. Qin Feiyang chuckled and raised his head to look at the blood dragon and the dozen or so blood-devouring bees opposite it. The dozen or so blood-devouring bees were also sizing up Qin Feiyang with a trace of surprise in their eyes. A 5-star combat emperor human could actually kill a 9-star the archbeast in an instant? Come and try my fire phoenix formula. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. His flaming battle aura rushed into the sky, and a huge fire phoenix appeared. Its mighty divine power shook the clouds. This was the 4th style of the fire phoenix formula, rising from the ashes. Bastard! Lu Zheng cursed in his heart. Chirp! The fire phoenix spread its wings and carried a sea of fire with it as it pounced toward the blood dragon. With Qin Feiyang's addition, the 2 fire phoenixes joined forces and instantly turned the battle into a one-sided one. Boom! In less than 3 breaths, the blood dragon let out a cry and collapsed. Lu Zheng landed beside Qin Feiyang and said unhappily, "It wasn't easy to move Hong, but you stole the limelight again. You should thank me. If I hadn't purposely hidden until now, you wouldn't even have a chance to date her." Qin Feiyang chuckled in his heart. What? You've been here for a long time? Lu Zheng was surprised. Yes. I didn't come out because I was fulfilling your wish. Qin Feiyang thought in his heart. I see. You're indeed blood brothers. Thank you. Lu Zheng laughed in his heart. No. You're mistaken. We're not blood brothers. We're cousins. There's still some distance between cousins and blood brothers. Qin Feiyang said. You're really arrogant. It's just a polite remark. Don't take it seriously. Lu Zheng glanced at him disdainfully, then looked up at the dozen or so blood-devouring bees and said in his heart, let's not talk nonsense and get rid of them together. Qin Feiyang nodded. Boom! The 2 of them waved their hands, and the 2 fire phoenixes circling in the sky immediately charged toward the dozen or so blood-devouring bees. Go! One of the blood-devouring bees shouted. The dozen or so blood-devouring bees immediately turned around and fled. Weren't you very arrogant just now? Why are you running now? Lu Zheng laughed, his eyes full of contempt, but his heart was full of joy. After being chased for so long, he had a bellyful of resentment. Now that the reinforcements had finally arrived, he naturally couldn't just let it go. The 2 fire phoenixes chased closely. In the end, with a series of miserable howls, the dozen or so blood-devouring bees died one after another under the sharp claws of the fire phoenixes. Chapter 1481. But because of the death of these dozens of blood-devouring bees, the other blood-devouring bees were completely enraged. You cruel humans deserve to die 10,000 deaths. Brothers, kill. Don't let any of them go. The blood-devouring bees roared one after another. Like a bloody wave, they pounced toward Qin Feiyang and the others. You guys go to the castle first. Qin Feiyang turned his head and said to Fatso, Lu Hong, and the Phantom Snake Emperor. Then, he sent them directly to the castle. Lu Zheng hurriedly said, I also want to go and rest. In your dreams. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at him. The word kill appeared between his eyebrows. His eyes and long hair instantly turned blood red, and his killing intent enveloped all directions. All the blood-devouring bees that were enveloped by the killing intent instinctively felt despair. But they didn't stop because of this. On the contrary, they became even crazier. Qin Feiyang looked around. The blood on the ground and the blood in the corpses continuously flowed toward the word kill. Boom! His cultivation base rapidly soared. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang retracted his gaze and looked at Lu Zheng. He asked, Why are you with Gongsun Bei? We met here. Speaking of which, we have to thank him. If he didn't bring people to hold back the blood-devouring bees of the 8 and 9-star combat emperors, we would have died a long time ago. Right. There are 2 bee emperors here, 1 male and 1 female. They have the strength of a peak 9-star combat emperor. Lu Zheng said in a deep voice. To be emperors, Qin Feiyang murmured, other than Gongsun Bei, who are the others? They seem to be the oracles of the main tower. Lu Zheng said. Let's go and take a look. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and brought Lu Zheng to the battlefield where Gongsun Bei was. He had always had a good impression of Gongsun Bei. He even wanted to take him under his command. Unfortunately, Gongsun Bei was too loyal to the main tower master. To be exact, he wasn't loyal to the main tower master. He was loyal to the main tower and the Forgotten Continent like Elder Qin. Boom! With a large amount of blood, Qin Feiyang's cultivation base quickly reached 8-star combat emperor. The 50-sword shadows of the Guiyuan sword technique swept out in all directions, sweeping everything in their path. Wherever they went, the blood-devouring bees would die under the sword. There was no need for Lu Zheng to do anything. This kill character formula is really powerful. Lu Zheng watched with trepidation. He consumed a healing pill and looked at Qin Feiyang with shifty eyes. He smiled and said, "Little cousin, can you teach this kill formula to others?" Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at him. Lu Zheng immediately turned hostile and said angrily, "I was just asking. How is it scolding people? Do you have any manners? Wolf and the wolf hell by." Qin Feiyang said. Lu Zheng was stunned. He was furious. How could he not think of such a simple logic? He was smart all his life, but stupid this time. You, on the other hand. What have you experienced in the past few days? Why do I feel that Lu Hong's opinion of you has changed? Qin Feiyang asked secretly as he killed the enemies. It's a long story. Ever since we entered this damned place, we've been running for our lives. But you're right. Hong is no longer as cold as before. Maybe it's because she saw my concern and sincerity for her along the way. Lu Zheng was secretly delighted. Qin Feiyang glanced at him and said, "Are you serious?" Lu Zheng immediately frowned and said, "Nonsense. Am I the kind of person who treats relationships as child's play? That's good. I don't mean anything by asking this. After all, Lu Hong has been with me for so many years. I also want her to have a good home. And we're different from you. You grew up with a silver spoon in your mouth. There were no disasters or difficulties. But we've been through hardships since we were young. It's not easy to get to where we are now." Qin Feiyang said. Lu Zheng frowned and said, "Why does it sound like you're mocking me?" "I'm telling the truth. Take Lu Hong for example. When she was in Black Bear City, she had to bow to reality and live a humble life in order to survive. If Fatso hadn't dragged her into the water back then, who knows how far she would have fallen today. So I hope that she can continue to live a stable and happy life like this." Qin Feiyang said. Dragged into the water? Lu Zheng was stunned and asked curiously, "What do you mean?" "It's been too long. I don't remember clearly. I only vaguely remember that my situation in Black Bear City was very bad. It was Fatso who dragged Lu Hong onto my pirate ship. There's one thing I still remember. Lu Hong has always been brooding about this matter. She said that Fatso is not kind." Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. "This damn Fatso is indeed not kind. But it's all thanks to this damn Fatso. Otherwise, as you said, Hong-er's fate would not be like today. Don't worry. I promise to treat her well and will never let her suffer. Also, if this really happens, you'll be our matchmaker. At that time, I'll give you a big pig's head." Lu Zheng chuckled. "You're the pig's head." Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes, but he was very gratified. He believed that this would be the best ending for Lu Hong. Boom! During the conversation, Qin Feiyang's cultivation had already superimposed to a 9-star combat emperor. The blood-devouring bees naturally could not stop him. Boom! But suddenly, An exceptionally deafening sound exploded on the battlefield in front. Not long after, a wave of chi that seemed to be able to destroy the world came crashing down like a raging wave in a vast ocean, toppling mountains and overturning seas. This is the aura of self-destruction. Lu Zheng was stunned. He turned to look at Qin Feiyang and said, "It can't be Gongsun Bei, right?" Qin Feiyang's heart sank. He knew Gongsun Bei's character. He would rather sacrifice himself than let others self-destruct. Maybe it really was him. "Please don't let it be you." Qin Feiyang murmured and used the phantom steps. His blood-red hair fluttered. He was like a god of death descending to the world as he charged over with Lu Zheng. The parched earth was shattered into pieces. A tragic aura filled the void. The blood-devouring bees were in a boundless swarm. It was impossible to count them. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang saw more than a dozen figures on the ground in front of him. The leader was Gongsun Bei. There were men and women, old and young, but without exception, they were all missing arms and legs. They were dripping with blood and looked extremely miserable. A group of people was charging towards them. No. To be exact, they were running towards them. "He's not dead." Qin Feiyang became spirited and quickly rushed over to help. If it was really Gongsun Bei who had self-destructed, he would have regrets in his heart. Damn it. He actually forced Old Feng to self-destruct. If I knew that the divine ruin was so dangerous, I wouldn't have come. At the same time, the people behind Gongsun Bei were roaring with regret. Their faces were filled with helplessness. They thought that the divine ruin was heaven, but it was hell. No. It was scarier than hell. Calm down. What's the use of regretting now? Old Feng self-destructed to open a way for us to survive. We can't let him die in vain. Gongsun Bei shouted. Everyone became silent. Bastards, I'll kill you all. A white-clothed woman suddenly roared and charged towards the swarm of bees. She waved her hand and killed a large number of them. At the same time, 2 8-star combat emperor blood-devouring bees stabbed their stingers into the white-clothed woman's heart. The white-clothed woman immediately cried out in pain. Gongsun Bei's face darkened. He went forward and smashed the 2 blood-devouring bees to save the white-clothed woman. Why are you so impulsive? Gongsun Bei's face was filled with anger. He pulled out the 2 poisonous stingers and took out an antidote pill, stuffing it into the woman's mouth. I really don't want to run anymore. I want to die together with them like Old Feng. The white-clothed woman roared. Obviously, her mind had collapsed. Suddenly, a white-haired old man accidentally discovered Qin Feiyang and Lu Zheng. His eyes widened and were filled with disbelief. After regaining his senses, he immediately shouted, "Look, are my eyes playing tricks on me? I actually saw Qin Feiyang." What? Qin Feiyang? Everyone's eyes trembled. Gongsun Bei also immediately turned his head. When he saw Qin Feiyang and Lu Zheng, his face was filled with ecstasy. He said, "It's really him. We're saved. Let's go." Hearing Gongsun Bei's words, the group of people seemed to have been injected with chicken blood. They forcibly opened up a bloody path and rushed to meet up with Qin Feiyang. After a while, the 2 groups finally met. Qin Feiyang ran to Gongsun Bei and asked with concern, "Are you okay?" Gongsun Bei said, "I can still hold on. Take this first." Qin Feiyang took out a healing pill with 6 veins and gave it to Gongsun Bei. Then, he looked at the divine envoys behind Gongsun Bei. Including Gongsun Bei, there were a total of 15 people. 2 of them were at the peak of the 9-star combat emperor realm. The rest were 9-star combat emperors. Qin Feiyang said suspiciously, "I sensed 3 peak realm auras earlier. Why are there only 2 now? The one missing is Old Feng. He self-destructed his physical body so that we could escape from the encirclement of the 2 wasp emperors." Gong Sun Bei said dejectedly. What a pity. Qin Feiyang sighed. The birth of a peak 9-star combat emperor not only required a long time, but also a large amount of resources. The old man in white said anxiously, don't say so much. The wasp emperors have probably caught up. If we don't leave now, it will be too late. Qin Feiyang nodded and looked at Gong Sun Bei. You take them and leave first. Lu Zheng and I will bring up the rear. Okay. Gong Sun Bei nodded and immediately led a group of people forward. However, after a few steps, the ground in front of them cracked and a giant blood-devouring wasp swept out from the ground. Its body was more than 100 feet long, like a house. Its body was dripping with blood and emitted a monstrous aura. His cultivation had reached the peak of the 9-star combat emperor realm. Wasp Emperor. Gong Sun Bei and the group immediately braked and retreated to Qin Feiyang's side. They stared at the Wasp Emperor with fear in their eyes. Behind the Wasp Emperor, there was a group of blood-devouring wasps. Chapter 1482. What should we do? The divine envoys panicked. Now, they were all seriously injured and had no strength to fight. Although there were more Qin Feiyang and Lu Zheng, they did not think that the two of them could handle so many 9-star combat emperors' blood-devouring bees. Not to mention the bee empress. You are all divine envoys of the main pagoda. What have you not seen? Why are you so useless now? Can panicking solve the problem? Everyone, calm down. Gong Sun Bei shouted. Palace Master, you can't blame them. Since entering the divine site, everyone has been fighting. They are all exhausted. Yes, we don't even have time to rest. Fortunately, everyone's mental fortitude is good enough. Otherwise, they would have collapsed. The two peak combat emperors looked at Gong Sun Bei and sighed. Gong Sun Bei frowned and turned to look at Qin Feiyang, wanting to say something. Boom! Suddenly, the ground in front of them cracked, and another giant blood-devouring bee appeared with a group of blood-devouring bees. What? The two bee empresses are not dead. Isn't Old Fang's self-destruction meaningless? Damn it! The two peak combat emperors roared in grief. Gong Sun Bei was also filled with grief and anger. He thought that the self-destruction could at least kill one bee empress, but in the end, the two bee empresses were only injured. On the surface, the injuries were not serious. The two bee empresses led their people and blocked everyone's path. Their eyes flashed fiercely. There are so many of them. Lu Zheng was surprised. At a glance, there were at least thousands of 9-star combat emperors' blood-devouring bees. There were more of them than now. Although Old Fang's self-destruction did not kill the bee empresses, it killed many 9-star combat emperors' blood-devouring bees. Gong Sun Bei said in a low voice. How many were there? Lu Zheng asked. Gong Sun Bei said, there were at least 2,000 or 3,000 9-star combat emperors' blood-devouring bees. TSK TSK TSK. Lu Zheng was speechless. Facing so many terrifying blood-devouring bees, it was a miracle that Gong Sun Bei and the others could hold on until now. Actually, we had more than 30 divine envoys. Gong Sun Bei sighed. It went without saying that those missing people had all died in battle. There are 2 more humans. But it doesn't matter. Kill. The two bee emperors looked at Qin Feiyang and Lu Zheng with disdain. With a loud roar, the 9-star combat emperor's blood-devouring bees swarmed towards Qin Feiyang and the others. You're courting death. Lu Zheng's gaze turned cold. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. You don't need to do anything. Just protect Gong Sun Bei and the others. Whatever. Lu Zheng shrugged. Boom. Qin Feiyang's body shook, and an invisible force rolled out. The 4 moves of the ruins of End attacked. His divine might shook the entire area. Ah, the blood-devouring bees fell one after another, their blood splashing across the sky. With Qin Feiyang as the center, the area within a radius of half a mile was like an uncrossable lightning pool. Not a single blood-devouring bee could approach. Those that came close would immediately explode and die. This technique, the group of divine envoys was stunned. Boom! Soon after. With the kill art, Qin Feiyang's cultivation level broke through again and stepped into the peak 9-star combat emperor realm. What? This time, even the 2 bee emperors were stunned. He broke through it this time. Lu Zheng, protect them. Qin Feiyang shouted coldly and took the initiative to attack. He used the phantom steps and pounced on the bee emperor in front of him. Do you think you can compete with me just because you have broken through to the peak realm? Naive. The wasp emperor smiled disdainfully as a blood-colored wave surged out and rushed towards Qin Feiyang from all directions. You're the naive one. Let alone the peak realm, even an ordinary 9-star combat emperor can easily kill you. Qin Feiyang sneered. With a wave of his hand, the 3 divine skills, Eclipse and Moon, appeared. With a destructive aura, they crushed the blood-red wave and drowned the bee emperor. The bee emperor's expression changed and it quickly summoned its battle soul. However, it was useless. The battle soul was destroyed. Immediately after. With a scream, the bee emperor's body suddenly exploded and flesh and blood splattered everywhere. Bastard! I'm going to tear you apart. The other bee emperor was filled with grief and anger. It activated its battle soul and pounced on Qin Feiyang like a madman. Ant! Qin Feiyang snorted coldly. The divine dragon seal appeared and the dragon's aura rolled out in all directions. With a loud bang, the bee emperor died on the spot. Not even its bones were left behind. This, Gongsun Bei and the others were dumbfounded. The 2 wasp emperors that gave them a headache and almost took their lives were easily killed by Qin Feiyang just like that? This must be a joke. This strength of his was too terrifying. Master Bee Emperor. The death of the 2 bee emperors caused the other blood-devouring bees to fall into endless grief and anger. You damned humans, you should be hacked into pieces. My people, kill them and avenge the 2 masters. Kill. The place was suddenly filled with the sound of killing. In an instant, the endless blood-devouring bees turned into a blood-red wave and pounced on Qin Feiyang and the others from all directions. The eyes of each blood-devouring bee were filled with hatred and resentment. Boom! There were even a few 9-star combat emperor blood-devouring bees that pounced on Qin Feiyang and exploded their bodies. The destructive aura was overwhelming. Qin Feiyang decisively activated the battle character secret art and the armor. This double defense could actually block the destructive power of the self-explosion. He was overjoyed. In the future, when he fought with others, he would no longer be afraid of his opponents suddenly exploding and he would not need to hide in the ancient castle. Little cousin, don't just worry about yourself. At this moment, Lu Zheng's anxious voice sounded. Qin Feiyang quivered and hurriedly turned his head to look. He saw that Lu Zheng and the others were covered in wounds under the destructive power of the self-explosion. Especially Gongsun Bei and the group of divine envoys. Blood spurted out from all over their bodies and their bodies were cracking. Qin Feiyang's expression changed. He quickly rushed over and waved his hand to send everyone to the ancient castle. Even the self-explosion couldn't hurt him. How can this human be so terrifying? The surrounding blood-devouring bees were all stunned when they saw Qin Feiyang alive and kicking. I don't believe it. Go to hell with me. A 9-star battle monarch blood-devouring bee let out a furious roar and charged toward Qin Feiyang. Its dustpan-sized body suddenly exploded. But in the end, not only was Qin Feiyang unharmed, but its companions were also killed. This is too terrifying. Even the self-explosion couldn't hurt him. Is he a human or a monster? The swarm of bees panicked. Have you guys had enough fun? It's my turn now. Qin Feiyang smiled coldly. Like a killing god, he swept into the swarm of bees and killed in all directions. The 2 bee emperors had fallen. Now, he didn't need to use the divine art anymore. The 50 sword shadows of the Guiyuan sword art were extremely sharp and invincible. Every time he attacked, a large group of blood-devouring bees would be destroyed. In less than 100 breaths, thousands of 9-star combat emperor blood-devouring bees were killed. Stop killing. We won't fight anymore. I beg you, please have mercy on me. The blood-devouring bees were scared out of their wits. One after another, they crawled on the ground and begged. Qin Feiyang lowered his arm and scanned the surrounding bees. The killing intent in his eyes had not disappeared. We were wrong. We shouldn't have provoked you. Please be merciful and give us a way out. The group of blood-devouring bees at the front looked at Qin Feiyang pitifully. They were all 8-star combat emperors. The 2 bee emperors and the 9-star combat emperor's blood-devouring bees had been killed. They were now the leaders of the blood-devouring bees. Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered. Suddenly, he deactivated the kill formula and his cultivation quickly dropped to 5-star combat emperor. What's the situation? The blood-devouring bees were surprised. Why would his cultivation suddenly plummet without rhyme or reason? Was he injured? Was he just holding on? An 8-star combat emperor blood-devouring bee roared, "Brothers, he's not as scary as we thought. Let's kill him together." Kill. The swarm of bees once again pounced on Qin Feiyang. Sigh. Qin Feiyang let out a long sigh and shook his head. "I've already given you a chance." "What do you mean?" The blood-devouring bees were surprised. "I deactivated the kill formula in order to test you. If you don't have any evil intentions, I'll definitely give you a way out. Unfortunately, your current performance has greatly disappointed me. In that case, don't blame me for being merciless." As soon as he finished speaking, Qin Feiyang's eyes were filled with murderous intent. A purple gold divine dragon appeared in the sky and let out a long roar. Divine dragon's roar. Waves of invisible sound waves rolled out in all directions like waves. Are all of you thinking right now that I've lowered my cultivation just to test you? Isn't that too stupid? Wrong. I'm not stupid. I'm confident. Even if I'm only a 5-star combat emperor, it's enough to massacre your entire tribe. Qin Feiyang smiled coldly. The sound waves roared in the sky. The 8-star combat emperor blood-devouring bees that were charging at the front were accompanied by painful screams as their bodies exploded one after another. Their blood dyed the mountains and rivers red. A 5-star combat emperor's cultivation is so powerful? The swarm of bees was shocked. They quickly prostrated themselves on the ground and begged for mercy in despair. You only have one chance. Qin Feiyang's eyes were extremely cold. The sound waves continued to rush out, crushing the ground. In just 2 to 3 breaths' time, tens of thousands of blood-devouring bees died on the spot. He's a demon. Run! A 7-star combat emperor blood-devouring bee roared. The swarm of bees immediately scattered and began to flee in panic. Kill! At this moment, Ling Yunfei and the others rushed over with murderous intent, leaving behind a sea of corpses wherever they went. Why are you here? Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. You left for a long time and didn't return. Of course, we were afraid that something would happen to you, so we came to take a look. I didn't expect the blood-devouring bees to be gathered here. What exactly happened here? The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix House asked. Qin Feiyang smiled and looked at Ling Yunfei and Luo Qingzhu. He said, I found Fatso and Gongsun Bei here. Fatso. When the two heard this, a trace of joy crept up their faces. What about little Hongzi, little Jingzi, and little Worm? White-Eyed Wolf asked. They're here too. Chapter 1483. Brother Wolf, why didn't you come earlier? I almost died in the hands of these beasts. Fatty immediately rushed in front of the ingrate, as if he was a little wife who had been wronged, with an aggrieved expression. Get lost. What's the big deal? Why are you so wronged? The white-eyed wolf pushed Fatso away, his eyes full of disdain. Fatso looked at the white-eyed wolf in a daze. Why are you looking at me? The white-eyed wolf raised his eyebrows. Fatso sighed deeply and said sadly, You've changed. It seems that you've met a new lover and forgotten me, your old love. Bastard, are you deliberately disgusting me? The white-eyed wolf was furious. Haha, Ling Yunfei laughed and said, Damn Fatso, I haven't seen you for so many years, but you're still so funny. Luo Qingzhu couldn't help but cover her mouth and laugh. Who is it? How dare you call me damn Fatso? Are you looking for death? Fatso immediately frowned and turned to look at Ling Yunfei. At that moment, his eyes widened and he exclaimed, How is this possible? What's going on? Lu Hong, Lu Zheng, and the Phantom Snake Emperor also looked at Ling Yunfei. This, Lu Hong was also stunned. As for Lu Zheng and the Phantom Snake Emperor, they had never seen Ling Yunfei before, so they naturally didn't know what was going on. Is there an illusion? It seems that Fat Lord's injuries are really serious this time. Fatso came back to his senses, shook his head, and looked at Ling Yunfei again. Why didn't you change? His expression froze again. Was it an illusion? What the hell was that? He shivered and hid behind Qin Feiyang. He stared at Ling Yunfei and shouted, Are you a human or a ghost? When he was alive, Fat Lord had never done anything wrong to you. Don't bother me. Ling Yunfei's face darkened. Luo Qingzhu pursed her lips and smiled, Fatso, take a good look. Fatso then looked at Luo Qingzhu, his eyes almost popping out of their sockets. Are you kidding me? They even came in pairs to find us? Brothers, sisters, hurry up and leave. I'm timid, I can't stand the torment. At most, I'll burn more paper money and ingots for you during festivals in the future to show my filial piety. Fatso looked at the two of them with a long face and begged again and again. A row of black lines appeared on Luo Qingzhu's forehead. This bastard Fatso, why couldn't he say something reasonable? Was he cursing them? Whoosh! Luo Qingzhu took a step forward and slapped Fatso's face. She shouted, Take a good look. Are we humans or ghosts? Ouch ouch ouch. Fatso howled. Wait a minute. Would it hurt? There was still warmth in his hand. There was still a fragrance on his body. So, they were not ghosts. He looked up at the two of them, his eyes full of disbelief. We're not dead. Ling Yunfei laughed. Not dead. Fatso was stunned. He looked at Luo Qingzhu closely and suddenly opened his arms and hugged Luo Qingzhu. Not dead. You're really not dead. What have you been doing all these years? Since you're still alive, why didn't you come back earlier? Do you know how many tears I've shed for you all these years? How many times did I feel sad for you? Fatso was so excited that he was almost incoherent. Go away, go away. Your snot is all over me. Luo Qingzhu pushed Fatso with all her strength, her face full of disgust. No. Compared to my concern for you, this snot is nothing. Bear with it. Fatso snorted coldly. Luo Qingzhu smiled helplessly. Ling Yunfei was also speechless to the extreme. However, the two of them felt warm in their hearts. No matter how unreliable Fatso was, they knew that these words came from the bottom of Fatso's heart. His concern for them and his affection for them could not be erased. Ling Yunfei walked to Lu Hong, opened his arms, and said with a smile, Long time no see. Long time no see. Lu Hong nodded with a smile and stepped forward to give Ling Yunfei a hug. Wait. Seeing this, Lu Zheng immediately pulled the two of them apart and glared at Ling Yunfei. Who the hell are you? How dare you take advantage of Hong, in front of me? Ah. Ling Yunfei was stunned, looked at Lu Zheng and said, I know who you are, the genius of the Lu family, Boss Qin's cousin Lu Zheng, but what does my hug with Lu Hong have to do with you? Of course it's my business. Hong, is my fiancé. Lu Zheng said confidently. Fiancé? Ling Yunfei was stunned. Luo Qingzhu was stunned. Everyone present was looking at Lu Zheng in shock at this moment. Lu Hong was also stunned. She never thought that such a sentence would come out of Lu Zheng's mouth. Lu Zheng said proudly, You hug my fiancé in front of me, and you dare to say it's none of my business? Who is your fiancé? Are you having a fever? Lu Hong came to her senses and immediately glared at Lu Zheng. Lu Zheng grabbed Lu Hong's hand and said aggrievedly, Hong, so many people are watching, can't you leave me some face? Let go. Lu Hong was angry and ashamed. No. If I let go, what if you run away? Lu Zheng shook his head. So it's like this. Ling Yunfei looked at the two of them and finally understood. He reached out to pat Lu Zheng on the shoulder and said with a sneaky smile, Cousin, I'm sorry, I was wrong just now. You're quite sensible, boy. I like it. Lu Zheng also laughed sneakily. Cousin, as long as you don't hold a grudge against me. Let me add one last thing, you have a good eye. Ling Yunfei chuckled. Of course. Lu Zheng held his head high and chest out, extremely proud of himself. What are you two whispering about? Lu Hong looked at the two of them with a frown. Nothing, nothing. The two of them waved their hands. I don't believe you. Lu Hong snorted and glanced at Lu Zheng, saying, I told you to let go, didn't you hear me? No. Unless you promise me that you won't leave me for the rest of your life. Lu Zheng said with a stubborn face. Lu Hong looked at the sky and was speechless. She looked at Qin Feiyang and the others for help. Everyone pretended not to see. Qin Feiyang coughed, glanced at Lu Hong, and said to Lu Zheng via voice transmission, Haste makes waste. She hasn't pushed you away now, which means that she has subconsciously accepted you. Take it slow. That makes sense. Lu Zheng thought about it and secretly chuckled. He let go of Lu Hong, then smiled ambiguously at Lu Hong, walked to Qin Feiyang, looked at Ling Yunfei and Luo Qingzhu, and said with a smile, Little cousin, won't you introduce us? Qin Feiyang said, His name is Ling Yunfei, and her name is Luo Qingzhu. They are friends I made in the county of Yan. So it's you. I've heard of your names before, but I've never seen you in person. I'm lucky to meet you today. Nice to meet you. Lu Zheng cupped his hands and smiled. Luo Qingzhu said with a smile, You're too kind, young Master Lu. Your name is really well known, especially your elder brother, Lu Jiejin. Ah. You even know my big brother? It seems that there's an expert behind the two of you. Lu Zheng looked at the two of them meaningfully. Luo Qingzhu said, You're thinking too much, young Master Lu. We just happened to hear about it. Huh, Lu Zheng laughed and did not ask any more questions. He ran to Lu Hong's side and fawned over her. Ling Yunfei glanced at Lu Zheng and said via voice transmission, Boss, your cousin may look frivolous on the surface, but he's actually a very shrewd person. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and said, If he didn't have a brain, second grandpa wouldn't have let him follow me. Then what's second grandpa's purpose in letting him follow you? Ling Yunfei asked secretly. Qin Feiyang said, Probably to protect me. Then it seems that the Lu family is quite good to you. Ling Yunfei said secretly. Qin Feiyang nodded and asked, How much beehive did you get? A lot. At least enough for us to squander for a few years. And there's still a lot that we haven't had time to collect. Ling Yunfei smiled. Beehive? The group of oracles looked at each other, their eyes full of surprise. Gongsun Bei looked at Qin Feiyang and asked curiously, The beehive you're talking about, is it the beehive of the blood-devouring bees? Qin Feiyang nodded. Gong Sunbei said, I heard that the beehive of the blood-devouring bees is a great treasure. I've tasted it. The rumors are true. A drop of beehive is comparable to 1,000 battle chi pills and healing pills. Qin Feiyang smiled and looked at Ling Yunfei. Take out 15 drops of beehive and let them have a taste. At the same time, help them heal their injuries. Okay. Ling Yunfei nodded. A light flashed in front of him and 15 drops of beehive appeared. Thank you. Gong Sunbei cupped his hands and thanked him. He waved his hand and 15 drops of beehive flew in front of him. He looked at the group of oracles and smiled. Come on, 1 drop each. The group of oracles glanced at Qin Feiyang and immediately stepped forward, each taking a drop. Immediately, a surge of majestic energy spread through their bodies. The fatigue from before was instantly swept away, and they were hale and hearty. The bleeding wounds and broken limbs were also healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. And the most obvious was the battle chi. In less than 10 breaths, the lost battle chi was replenished. This is really a miracle pill. The group of oracles exclaimed. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and raised his head to look in other directions. The swarm of bees had fled far away, but he could still vaguely see some traces of blood-devouring bees. Li Jian asked, Young master, why don't we chase after them? Anyway, the slightly stronger blood-devouring bees are already dead. There's no need to kill them all. Besides, if we kill them all, we won't be able to get such valuable beehive in the future. Qin Feiyang smiled. That makes sense. Li Jian nodded. But, Qin Feiyang said again, his eyes flickering. But what? Everyone looked at him suspiciously. Qin Feiyang turned his head to look at Ling Yunfei and smiled. Subdue them and let them enter your space divine item. This way, we will have endless battle chi pills. Good idea. Ling Yunfei nodded. Fatso and the others also agreed. Endless battle chi pills. The group of oracles standing behind Gong Sunbei heard this, and a glint flashed in their eyes. The next moment, the 2 old men at the peak of the 9-star combat emperor realm looked at each other and rushed out, landing behind Lu Hong. One of the old men immediately slapped Lu Zheng's back. Puff! Lu Zheng suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood and flew out like a meteorite. Chapter 1484. Qin Feiyang and the others were startled. They quickly looked over and paled. Even Gong Sunbei was caught off guard. After coming back to his senses, Qin Feiyang immediately stepped forward and caught Lu Zheng, asking, Are you all right? Lu Zheng ignored his own injuries and immediately looked at the 2 old men. He shouted, What are you doing? Let go of Hong. One of the old men smiled. The more you show concern, the more valuable this woman is. Humph. Qin Feiyang coldly snorted. Don't move. Otherwise, don't blame this old man for being ruthless. The old man holding Lu Hong stared at Qin Feiyang warily and smiled coldly. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed coldly. Don't forget that I saved you just now. Yes. You saved us. But so what? You can only blame yourself for being too stupid. The 2 sneered. Impudent. Gong Sunbei suddenly became furious. He glared at the 2 and shouted, Is this how you repay kindness with enmity as the divine envoys of the main tower? I order you to release her immediately. Temple Master, you're stupid. Don't you know what kind of person Qin Feiyang is? Even if he saved us now, he'll find an excuse to kill us sooner or later. Maybe he saved us for an ulterior motive. The 2 said. I know what kind of person Qin Feiyang is better than any of you. Release Lu Hong immediately. I'll plead with Qin Feiyang for you. I believe he'll let you go for my sake. Gong Sunbei said. Let you go? Not now. The 2 old men chuckled and turned to look at the other 12 divine envoys. What are you still standing there for? Come here. How dare you? Gongsun roared. The 12 oracles looked at the two old men and then at Gongsun. It was hard for them to make a choice. Temple Master, this old man knows that you are a righteous person, but don't forget what the Chief Tower Master told us before we left. That's right. The Chief Tower Master has ordered us to eliminate Qin Feiyang and his henchmen as soon as we have the chance. And now is a good opportunity. This woman is in our hands. No matter how capable Qin Feiyang is, he can only hold back from shooting at the rat for fear of breaking the vases. So, Palace Master, please don't let your emotions affect your decisions. The two old men said. Hearing those words, the 12 divine envoys decisively stood together with the two old men. Simultaneously, the eyes of Qin Feiyang, Fatso, and the others were also filled with coldness and killing intent. Who would have thought that the Chief Pagoda Master would give such an order? Getting rid of them as soon as they had the chance, how vicious. Boss, let's do it. With Lu Hong's current strength, even if that old bastard attacked, she would at most be seriously injured. She won't lose her life. Fatso messaged. Don't be in such a hurry. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and looked at Gongsun. He wanted to see what Gongsun would do. Gongsun lowered his head, seemingly struggling in his heart. A moment later, he raised his head and looked at Qin Feiyang. Then, he looked at the two old men and shook his head. I don't dare to forget Chief Tower Master's orders, but I, Gongsun, can't do such a thing. Qin Feiyang smiled. He had not misjudged Gongsun. But the two old men became angry and shouted, Are you going to disobey the Chief Tower Master's order? I don't dare. I will carry out the Chief Tower Master's order, but not now. Now, as the Temple Master of the Oracle Hall, I order you to release her immediately. Gongsun shouted. Carry it out? If you lose this opportunity, do you think you can kill Qin Feiyang with your strength? Temple Master, the winner is the king, the loser is the bandit. As long as we win, who cares what methods we use? Let's talk about it later. As long as we kill him, everything he has, including the castle, Changshui, and the beehive they collected before, will be ours. This is a win-win deal. The two old men tried to persuade him. I care. Although others won't say it, my conscience will be uneasy. And it will be uneasy for the rest of my life. I'll say it one last time, release her. Gongsun shouted. The two old men looked at each other and shook their heads at Gongsun. Temple Master, you have really disappointed us. A kind person like you is not suitable to be the Temple Master of the Oracle Hall. What do you want to do? Gongsun raised his eyebrows, feeling uneasy. Today, Qin Feiyang must die. Since you can't do it, then step aside and watch. If you dare to interfere, humph. Then don't blame us for being disrespectful and killing you too. The two old men snorted coldly, not hiding the killing intent in their eyes. Gongsun was furious. In fact, he was saving everyone. Because in the main tower, no one knew Qin Feiyang better than him. Qin Feiyang cared about his companions the most. Attacking his companions was tantamount to touching his reverse scale, and there would not be a good ending. But he also understood. These people had already made up their minds and would not listen at all. So the anger in his heart could only turn into a long sigh. Then, he slowly walked to the two old men and turned to look at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang said, Is this your choice? I have no choice. Between you and the main tower, I have to make a choice. I don't ask for your forgiveness, I just hope you can understand. Gongsun sighed. Understand, Qin Feiyang murmured and looked at Gongsun with a smile. Then I want to ask, I have done so many things over the years, why can't anyone understand me? Gongsun was silent. Qin Feiyang shook his head and murmured, Wrong is wrong, right is right. Since you have made a choice, you have to pay the price. I am willing to pay the price. Gong Sunbei said. Seeing Gong Sunbei express his position, the two old men laughed. One of them sneered, Qin Feiyang, your road has come to an end. Immediately tell your people to cripple their own cultivation, including yourself. Sigh. Why are there always so many people in this world who think they are smart? Qin Feiyang sighed. You think too highly of them. This is not being smart, it is courting death. Fatso sneered. Cut the crap. Hurry up and do it. Otherwise, I will crush her throat. The old man holding Lu Hong shouted impatiently. Qin Feiyang narrowed his eyes, and murderous intent burst out of his eyes. But at this moment, Gong Sunbei suddenly turned around, grabbed Lu Hong's arm, and snatched her from the old man's hands. Temple Master, you, the old man's face was blank. The other old man and the other oracles were also caught off guard. Not to mention them. Even Qin Feiyang and the others did not expect this. Gong Sunbei waved his hand again and pushed Lu Hong in front of Qin Feiyang. Lu Zheng immediately went forward and grabbed Lu Hong's hand, his face full of concern, and asked, Are you okay? I'm fine. But you should be quite injured after being hit by his palm. Hurry up and take this healing pill. Lu Hong took out a healing pill and handed it to Lu Zheng. Feed me. Lu Zheng opened his mouth. I really don't know what to do with you. Lu Hong glared at Lu Zheng and put the healing pill into Lu Zheng's mouth. Hong, you're so nice. Lu Zheng smiled foolishly, his face full of happiness. Lu Hong shook her head helplessly and turned to look at Gong Sunbei. Her eyes flashed. Temple Master, what are you doing? You ruined such a good opportunity just like that. The oracles all glared at Gong Sunbei. Shut up, all of you. We are the oracles of the main tower. No matter what we do, we must be above board. I hope that in the future, you will not bring shame to the main tower. Gong Sunbei shouted coldly and looked at Qin Feiyang. I have returned Lu Hong to you, and I also solemnly apologize to you on their behalf. I hope you can let them go. You had a chance to kill him, but you didn't want it. Now you are begging for mercy. You are asking for humiliation. You have failed the main tower lord's high hopes and betrayed his will. You are not qualified to be our temple master. The two old men's eyes instantly turned red. Whoosh! The two of them attacked at the same time and destroyed Gong Sunbei's sea of qi with lightning speed. Gong Sunbei looked at them in disbelief. Qin Feiyang and the others were also dumbfounded. They never thought that these people would attack Gong Sunbei. One of the old men snorted and grabbed Gong Sunbei by the throat. He stared at Qin Feiyang and said, Although we don't know what happened between you and Gong Sunbei, we can see that you care about each other very much. Qin Feiyang frowned. The old man smiled sinisterly. If you want him to live, destroy your own cultivation immediately. Don't test this old man's patience. I admit that I admire him. But if you use him to threaten me, then I can only apologize to you. Qin Feiyang smiled coldly. Whoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, the Scorpion Emperor, the four beasts, and Li Jian immediately rushed out like hungry wolves, pouncing on the group of people. You really don't care? The old man looked a little flustered. Up to you. Qin Feiyang said lightly. I miscalculated. Damn it. The old man cursed. He grabbed Gong Sunbei and threw him toward the four beasts and Li Jian. Then he turned around and left without looking back. Seeing this, the other old man and the other oracles also turned around and ran for their lives. Li Jian waved his hand and caught Gong Sunbei. He turned his head and looked at Qin Feiyang with an inquiring gaze. Keep chasing. I want him alive. Qin Feiyang said. Understood. Li Jian nodded and put Gong Sunbei down. He waved his hand and led Zhou Zhang and the Scorpion King to chase after the group of people. The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house looked at the disappointed Gongsun Bei and walked to Qin Feiyang's side. She whispered, "You really don't care about him?" "Of course I care. But if I didn't say so, would they let Gongsun Bei go so easily? Besides, this is a good opportunity for me." Chapter 1485. A good opportunity? Ling Yunfei was taken aback. He looked at Fatso and asked suspiciously, "What good opportunity?" "Boss has been eyeing Gongsun Bei for a long time and wants to recruit him. But Gongsun Bei is a bit stubborn. And this time, Gongsun Bei's heart was hurt by the betrayal of his subordinates. This is a rare opportunity for boss." Fatso explained. "I see." Ling Yunfei suddenly understood and looked curiously at Gongsun Bei. What was so special about this person that made Qin Feiyang so envious? He looked at Gongsun Bei again. He stood there with his head lowered, and his expression was suffused with a wisp of sorrow that couldn't be dispersed. "It's not worth it to be sad over such a villain. Here." Qin Feiyang walked over, took out a spirit sea pill, and handed it to Gongsun Bei. Gongsun Bei looked up at Qin Feiyang, took the spirit sea pill, thanked him, and put it in his mouth. Then, he let out a long sigh. "Actually, I don't need to tell you what the people in the main tower are like. To be honest, I really feel that it's not worth it for you. You need a better and bigger stage to show your talent," Qin Feiyang said. Although he didn't say it directly, the sincerity on his face said it all. Gongsun Bei wasn't stupid and naturally understood what Qin Feiyang meant. But he didn't say anything. "What are you hesitating for? Are people like them worth your protection? Take the main tower master for example. He's a typical villain. Is it worth it for you to work for him?" Qin Feiyang said angrily, unable to hold back his anger. "To put it nicely, this is called loyalty. To put it bluntly, you're stubborn and blindly loyal." Fatso and the others also sighed. Not only Qin Feiyang, but he also felt that it was not worth it for Gongsun Bei. Such a good person was being controlled by a sinister villain. Where was the justice? A fine bird chooses a fine tree to nest in. Although Feiyang's methods are somewhat extreme at times, overall, he's much better than the head pagoda master. I can guarantee that you won't regret following him. The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion stepped forward and said. Gongsun Bei raised his head and looked at the young lady of Dragon Phoenix House, then at Fatso, and finally at Qin Feiyang. He sighed and said, "How can I not understand what you are talking about? However, everyone in this world has something that they must protect." Qin Feiyang frowned. Gongsun Bei looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "Take you for example. If I asked you to leave the great Qin Empire with me, would you be willing? If that's the case, as long as it benefits the great Qin Empire, I will agree. Because I'm protecting great Qin's territory and its people, not fighting for a single person." Qin Feiyang said. "You sure know how to think, but I can't do it because I'm a layman. So, I'm sorry. But thank you for your appreciation. We'll meet again if fate wills it." Gongsun Bei smiled, then turned and left silently. Why is my temper so stubborn? Fatso was furious and chased after Gongsun Bei. However, Qin Feiyang pulled him back and shook his head with a smile. "Don't chase. You can still smile?" Fatso frowned. "Why can't I smile? Didn't you see that he was hesitating at first? Hesitation means that he's starting to waver. I believe that one day, he will come to my side." Qin Feiyang smiled. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something as he looked at Gongsun Bei's back and said, "Wait. What's the matter?" Gongsun Bei stopped and looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. "Wait a moment." Qin Feiyang entered the castle. "What's going on?" Everyone was at a loss. A moment later, Qin Feiyang appeared with a jade box in his hands and tossed it to Gongsun Bei with a smile. "Just a token of my appreciation. Take it." Gong Sunbei reached for the jade box and was dumbfounded when he opened it. He came back to his senses. He hurriedly looked at Qin Feiyang and shook his head. I can't accept it without doing anything. Qin Feiyang had expected Gong Sunbei to reject and smiled. If you treat me as a friend, take it. Gong Sunbei was stunned. He was also a straightforward person and did not continue to refuse. He carefully put away the jade box and said, all right, I'll take it as owing you a favor. I'll definitely repay it in the future. All right. Qin Feiyang nodded. Goodbye. Gong Sunbei cupped his fists and smiled before turning and disappearing from the sight of Qin Feiyang and the others without looking back. Fatso asked curiously, Boss, what did you give him? Qin Feiyang said, a pill to unlock the door of potential. So, you were bribing him. Fatso nodded in realization. It's just a few pills. It can't be considered a bribe. Furthermore, there's no great creation pill in the pills I gave him. Qin Feiyang said. What? You still have a trick up your sleeve? That's not fair of you. Fatso said in disdain. Not fair? Qin Feiyang was stunned for a moment before he said angrily, can't you say something nicer? There's no great creation pill because I don't have any herbs on me. Do you understand? Fatso was stunned and smiled awkwardly. Sorry. Fat Lord, I forgot that all the herbs are with Dan Wangkai now. Although they had obtained more than 290 fruits of creation in the water source, it was useless without other herbs. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes and said, so now, we have to find Dan Wangkai quickly. The herbs he has are comparable to a big treasure. We can't let anything happen to him. Everyone nodded in agreement. Boom. Crack. At this moment, loud sounds of collision came from afar. Following closely, an intense battle ripple spread out, covering the sky and covering the earth. Everyone looked up. Although they couldn't see, they knew that the Crocodile Emperor and the rest were fighting with the divine envoys of the main tower. Qin Feiyang wasn't worried at all. Whether it was Li Jian or the Crocodile Emperor and the other beasts, they were all at the peak of the 9-star combat emperor realm. As for the divine envoys of the main tower, although they had the advantage in numbers, they only had 2 9-star combat emperors. So, no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't escape from the Crocodile Emperor and the rest. Qin Feiyang closed his eyes and calmed down. Through the slave seal, he sensed the location of Dan Wangkai and the rest. Time passed by. A moment later, Qin Feiyang frowned and opened his eyes. What's wrong? Everyone looked at him in surprise. Did something happen to Dan Wangkai and the rest? I don't know if there was an accident. But Dan Wangkai, Viper, Black Dragon Snake, Winged Snow Eagle, Pangolin, and Fire Qilin are in different directions. The distance is also very far. If we look for them one by one, how long will it take? Qin Feiyang said. Fatso said, let's stick to the original plan and find Dan Wangkai first. The herbs were the most important. Wait. Qin Feiyang closed his eyes again and sensed carefully. After about 100 breaths, he opened his eyes and smiled. Although everyone is in different directions, they are all rushing towards the southwest. Dan Wangkai happens to be in the southwest direction. Let's follow the original plan and meet up with Dan Wangkai first. Why did they all go to the southwest? At this time, Scorpion King suddenly emerged from the ground and asked. Qin Feiyang smiled. Because the entrance to the second level and the exit of the miracle are in the southwest direction. I see. Scorpion King nodded. Qin Feiyang asked suspiciously, why did you come back? The battle fluctuations over there had not disappeared, indicating that the battle was not over yet. It's all because of the arrogant Crocodile Emperor. It wants to fight those oracles alone and doesn't allow us to intervene. I was bored there, so I came back. Scorpion King snorted. Fight alone? Qin Feiyang and the rest looked at each other. This fellow was not an ordinary kind of arrogant. Let's go and have a look. Qin Feiyang waved his arm, and a group of people immediately rushed toward the battlefield in a grandiose manner. But halfway there, the battle fluctuations disappeared. It meant the battle was over. After a while, Crocodile Emperor, the other two beasts, and Li Jian dragged a dozen bloody corpses and ran over. In fact, it was not an exaggeration to say that they were corpses. Because those divine envoys looked too miserable. Not a single part of their bodies was intact. At first glance, they looked like a pile of minced meat. Their life fluctuations were also extremely weak. On their lower abdomens, there was a fist-sized bloody hole with blood gushing out. Why are you here? Crocodile Emperor asked suspiciously when it saw Qin Feiyang and the rest. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. I heard that you wanted to fight them alone, so I came to take a look. I didn't expect it to be over so quickly. Are you doubting my ability? Crocodile Emperor snorted. Really? I was just worried that they would self-destruct and hurt you. After all, you don't have any armor to protect you. Qin Feiyang said. Heh. At least you have some conscience. But as you expected, they wanted to self-destruct. But the Ant Emperor and Spider Emperor quickly shattered their sea of qi. Look at the bloody hole on their lower abdomens. It was caused by these two guys. Crocodile Emperor laughed. The Ant Emperor and Spider Emperor laughed proudly. Scorpion Emperor looked at Crocodile Emperor mockingly. Then this is not a one-on-one battle. Don't talk. Seeing you makes this emperor angry. You sneaked away. I have never seen such a disloyal bastard like you. Crocodile Emperor's eyes were full of disdain. Didn't you want to act cool? Of course, I will fulfill your wish. Let's talk about it later. This emperor's departure also means that I think highly of you and have faith in you. Scorpion Emperor said. You can slowly find excuses for your cowardice. Crocodile Emperor snorted. Bang! Bang! Next. The 2 men and 3 beasts threw the 14 oracles in front of Qin Feiyang. It's our fault, don't kill us, we are willing to follow you, even Li Jian and Zhou Zheng, you can let bygones be bygones and keep them by your side. This shows that you are a magnanimous person, moreover, we are not weak. We will definitely be able to help you. The arrogance of the dozen oracles disappeared completely. They looked at Qin Feiyang in horror, begging for mercy. Magnanimous? Qin Feiyang was stunned. He said playfully, did you just get to know me? What does magnanimity have to do with me? It must have been hard for you to say such untrue words. Fatso, who was next to him, also laughed. Who in the world did not know Qin Feiyang's temper? It had nothing to do with the word magnanimity. Whoever caused trouble would be killed. There was no room for discussion. Chapter 1486. Qin Feiyang looked at the 14 people coldly and said, Fatso, I'll leave this to you. The rest of you, follow me back and continue to collect the bee jelly. Go back. The first was to collect the bee jelly and the second was to collect the blood-devouring bees. He guessed that the remaining blood-devouring bees would return to their hive. Okay. Everyone nodded. At first, the fatty was very happy, but when he heard that everyone was going to leave, his expression immediately changed. He hurriedly pulled Qin Feiyang, and said, Don't, boss. If you leave me here alone, what if something happens? It's up to you. After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he turned around and led everyone away quickly. Fatso looked around and did not dare to stay here alone. He quickly gathered the 14 people and chased after Qin Feiyang. After a while, Qin Feiyang stood on top of a mountain and looked ahead. The mountains in front of him were full of holes. This was the blood-devouring bees' hive, but he did not see any of them. They didn't come back. Lu Zheng was surprised. The white-eyed wolf said, "They came back. I can smell their scent. They are all hiding in the hive." "Hey!" The crocodile emperor grinned and jumped down. It revealed its true form and rushed toward a giant peak. Then, it raised its giant tail and slapped the giant peak. Boom! The giant peak was instantly shattered. A giant beehive appeared. There were at least thousands of blood-devouring bees in the hive. A 7-star combat emperor blood-devouring bee stared at Qin Feiyang in horror and roared, "Human, didn't you say that you would let us go?" Qin Feiyang was stunned and asked doubtfully, "When did I say that?" "You didn't." The blood-devouring bee muttered. Its eyes were filled with helplessness. It crawled on the ground and begged, "I beg you, please don't kill us. Let us live, okay?" "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded. "What?" The blood-devouring bee was stunned. The rest of the blood-devouring bees looked at each other. So straightforward? Could it be a conspiracy? Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "I promise not to kill you, but I have a condition." "What conditions?" The blood-devouring wasps looked at him in confusion. Qin Feiyang said, "Call out all your people first." "What are you trying to do?" Some blood-devouring bees roared. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "It's fine as long as you don't. But if you don't do it, then don't blame me for being merciless. Go and call everyone out." The 7-star combat emperor's blood-devouring bee roared anxiously. Qin Feiyang's previous display of power had already cast a shadow that could never be erased for the rest of its life. When the surrounding blood-devouring bees heard the roar, they immediately scattered. At this moment, Fatso also rushed over with the 14 divine envoys. Looking at Qin Feiyang and the others, he secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Then, he threw the 14 people on the ground and sneered, "You bastards, how dare you plot against us? You're courting death. Fat Lord, don't kill us." The 14 people's expressions changed drastically as they hurriedly begged for mercy. Although Fatso's strength wasn't that great, they had long heard of his torture methods. "Don't be nervous. How could Fat Lord bear to kill you?" Fatso chuckled. He took out his chinkuan bag and flipped it over and over. Finally, he took out a rib bone that was shining with divine light from his chinkuan bag. It was Mu Tianyang's divine bone. Seeing this, Qin Feiyang looked at Fatso curiously. What was this guy planning to do? But then, his face twitched. Fatso actually took the rib bone, stripped one of the old man's pants, and directly stabbed it in. Aoo! The old man immediately let out a miserable howl like a pig being slaughtered. Shameless. Despicable. Bastard. Seeing this scene, Lu Hong, Luo Qingzhu, and the miss of the Longfeng house glared fiercely at Fatso and quickly turned their heads to look elsewhere. Ling Yunfei, Li Jian, and the Scorpion Emperor also looked at Fatso with disdain. To be able to think of such an inhumane method like stabbing the chrysanthemum flower, he was truly a genius. However, the other 13 divine envoys couldn't help but clamp their legs together when they saw this scene, their faces filled with panic. "Does it feel good?" Fatso grabbed the old man's hair and laughed. The old man shook his head frantically, his face filled with pain. At such an old age, he was actually being raped. This was too embarrassing. Not happy? Then Fat Lord will stab you until you feel good. Fatso laughed sinisterly. Good, good, good. The old man hurriedly nodded. Good. Since it feels good, then Fat Lord will continue and let you feel good enough. Fatso laughed evilly. Ling Yunfei and the others looked at each other in dismay. You have to continue whether you feel good or not. How do you expect others to answer you? This bastard Fatso is really bad. Wait. Qin Feiyang came back to his senses and went forward to stop Fatso. He said in a low voice, "This is a god's bone. Isn't it a bit of a waste to use it for this kind of thing?" Boss, you don't understand this, do you? Fatso said. I don't understand. Qin Feiyang was stunned. Fatso said, Fat Lord asked you, whose god's bone is this? Mu Tianyang. Qin Feiyang said. That's right. This is Mu Tianyang's god's bone. Why do you care? Besides, didn't Lu Xingchen say before that we should take good care of the god's bone? He will take it back sooner or later. Since it will be taken back sooner or later, it's better to stab it a few more times now. Think about it. When Lu Xingchen finds out that his god's bone has become a shit stirrer, what will his reaction be? Fatso laughed sinisterly. Ah. Qin Feiyang was stunned. Fatso laughed and said, Fat Lord will probably be so angry that he will vomit blood. Huh, Qin Feiyang laughed and gave him a thumbs up. Okay, I'll give you the other 5 ribs too. Deal with it properly. He emphasized the word deal with. Leave it to Fat Lord. When the time comes, Fat Lord will not only make him vomit blood, but also make him collapse. Fatso patted his chest and laughed sinisterly. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. He ignored Fatso and turned around, leaping up and landing on the crocodile emperor's back. Soon, swarms of blood-devouring bees swarmed over and flooded the ground. Qin Feiyang looked over, his eyes full of joy. Although he had killed a lot of blood-devouring bees before, there were at least 100,000 of them left. Suddenly, Lu Zheng jumped to Qin Feiyang's side and frowned. Little cousin, have you thought of a problem? What problem? Qin Feiyang was puzzled. Although the effect of the bee jelly is amazing, the premise is that the blood-devouring bees have to devour a lot of flesh and blood. In other words, you have to catch ferocious birds and beasts to raise them. Lu Zheng said. Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned. He had never thought about this problem. Now that he heard Lu Zheng say this, it was a little troublesome. Of course. If you insist on subduing them, I won't object. However, you have to be mentally prepared in advance. Lu Zheng said. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and said with a smile, We'll talk about it when the time comes. Fatso's screams were endless. The 14 oracles had no other thoughts at this moment. They just wanted to die quickly. But Fatso didn't let them do as they wished. And on Qin Feiyang's side, the blood-devouring bees had basically all arrived. Now, I'll give you a choice. Or be exterminated. Or come with me and work for me. Qin Feiyang looked around and said lightly. As soon as these words came out, the entire swarm of bees was in an uproar. Qin Feiyang said, I'll give you 30 breaths to think about it. 30 breaths? So short. What should we do? Do we go with him or resist to the end? Resist? He's so strong that even self-destruction can't hurt him. What can we do to resist? Besides, didn't you see that even the Crocodile Emperor, the Scorpion Emperor, the Ant Emperor, and the Spider Emperor have already followed him? There was a commotion everywhere. 30 breaths passed very quickly. Qin Feiyang said, Time's up. Tell me your choice. A group of 7 Star War Emperor blood-devouring bees gathered together. When they heard Qin Feiyang's words, they fell silent. We'll go with you. Finally, they made a decision. This was a decision they had no choice but to make. If they didn't follow, they would face the crisis of extermination. Very good. Qin Feiyang nodded and smiled. He looked at Ling Yunfei and said, Let them go to the spatial sacred item. Okay. Ling Yunfei smiled evilly. With a wave of his hand, an invisible force surged in all directions. Following closely. His mind moved. All the blood-devouring bees disappeared from everyone's sight in an instant. Ling Yunfei looked at Qin Feiyang and said, You guys continue to collect the bee jelly. I'll go in and settle them down. After saying that, Ling Yunfei also disappeared. Qin Feiyang jumped down from the Crocodile Emperor's back. He turned to look at everyone and said with a smile, "Let's start. Hurry up. Brothers, move your little hands quickly." The crocodile emperor roared and took the lead to rush towards a giant peak. Li Jian and the others, as well as the white-eyed wolf and other beasts, immediately spread out and started to sweep the area. And Fatso's torture was still ongoing. When Qin Feiyang walked over, he saw that the 14 divine envoys all had a look of hopelessness on their faces. Enough. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and stopped Fatso. Looking at the bloody and stinking rib, the corner of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. "This is a souvenir for Lu Xingchen." Fatso laughed evilly. He took out an iron box and kept it. "You're really wicked." Qin Feiyang was helpless. "TSK, to deal with people like him, you have to use such means." Fatso didn't care. "You're awesome." Qin Feiyang shook his head speechlessly. He looked down at the 14 divine envoys and said, "Answer my questions honestly, and I'll give you a quick death. Otherwise, I'll let Fatso continue to torture you. We'll talk, we'll tell you everything." Looking at Fatso's smirk, the 14 divine envoys quickly said. Qin Feiyang said, "Other than asking you to kill me, does your chief have any other conspiracy?" "No." The 14 divine envoys shook their heads. "Is that true?" Qin Feiyang's eyes turned cold. "It's true." The 14 divine envoys nodded. Qin Feiyang said, "I don't believe it. We're not lying. You have to believe us." The 14 divine envoys were anxious. Qin Feiyang frowned. Fatso came to Qin Feiyang's side and whispered, "Boss, look at them now. Do they dare to lie?" "Not necessarily." Chapter 1487. Okay. Fatso nodded. Taking out a dagger, he walked in front of an old man and sneered, "You don't want to tell the truth?" After that, he grabbed the dagger and stabbed it into the old man's body, causing blood to spurt out several meters away. "Kill me, kill me." The old man screamed in pain. He was in so much pain that he wished he was dead. The 13 people next to him, watching this scene, all curled up together and shivered. "Now, without my permission, you can't die even if you want to." Fatso smiled coldly, took out a healing pill, and forced it into the old man's mouth. Then he kicked the old man, looked at the other 13 people, and sneered, "If you don't tell the truth, I will torture you repeatedly and make you suffer a fate worse than death." I'll talk. A middle-aged man trembled and hurriedly said, "Actually, there is one thing." Sure enough, there is still something hidden. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed and asked, "What is it?" The middle-aged man said, "Our main pagoda has secretly formed an alliance with your great Qin to deal with you and the Mu family." "Alliance?" Qin Feiyang sneered and said, "What a bunch of clowns, do you think you can kill me by forming an alliance?" The middle-aged man said, "They also expected that they couldn't kill you, so they made a plan." Qin Feiyang and Fatso looked at each other, and their hearts trembled. There was really a conspiracy. Fatso said, "Tell me, what plan?" "The core of this plan is Wang Yuer. The main pagoda master knows that you still have feelings for Wang Yuer, so he ordered Wang Yuer to find a chance to get close to you after meeting you in the miracle." The middle-aged man said. Qin Feiyang clenched his hands. He actually used a woman to deal with him, what a scum. Fatso glanced at Qin Feiyang and asked, "Did Wang Yuer agree?" "Yes." The middle-aged man nodded. "What is this woman thinking?" Fatso was a little angry. Also, the main pagoda master and Wang Su have both broken through to the false god realm. The middle-aged man said. "What?" Qin Feiyang's eyes trembled. This was truly a shocking piece of news. Fatso asked in a deep voice, "When did this happen?" It seems to be the time when Qin Feiyang became the chief pagoda master's disciple. However, they have been hiding this matter. Apart from a few of us, no one else knows about it. the middle-aged man said. He broke through at that time, and there was no news at all. He really hid it well. Fatso smiled coldly. Qin Feiyang asked, "Is there anything else?" The middle-aged man shook his head and said, "No more, really no more. Give us a quick death, don't torture us anymore." Qin Feiyang glanced at the 14 people. After a long time, he waved his hand and said, "Kill them all." Fatso nodded. An expanse of black dragon battle chi emerged and transformed into wisps of black dragon battle chi that shot into the foreheads of the 14 people like a bolt of lightning. Ah! With a series of screams, the 14 people immediately fell to the ground and died. Fatso put away his dagger, looked at Qin Feiyang, and asked, "Boss, how do you plan to solve Wang Yuer's matter?" Qin Feiyang sighed and said, "No matter what, she has true feelings for me. I don't know how to deal with it. Let's talk about it when we meet again." Fatso pursed his lips and said, "Boss, don't blame Fat Lord for scolding you. You are really a blockhead." "Why do you say that?" Qin Feiyang was suspicious. "I know that you like the mermaid princess, but isn't it normal for a man to have multiple wives? And everyone can see Wang Yuer's feelings for you. In terms of beauty, Wang Yuer is not inferior to the mermaid princess. You can totally take her," Fatso said. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes. He thought that Fatso would say something righteous, but it turned out that he was instigating him to be promiscuous. Like was like. If he didn't like, he didn't like. Even if he didn't like, he had to pretend to like. Other men didn't dare to say this, but he couldn't do it. If he forced them to be together, it would be very unfair to the other party, and it would also be a very irresponsible behavior. Forget it, forget it. You are so stubborn. It's useless to say more." Fatso waved his hand and ran to collect the beeswax. At this time, Ling Yunfei came out of the space divine object. "Have you settled down?" Qin Feiyang asked. "Yes." Ling Yunfei nodded, leaned in front of Qin Feiyang, poked Qin Feiyang's arm, and said with an evil smile, "In fact, you can refer to Fatso's suggestion." Qin Feiyang's face darkened. "Well, I said too much." Ling Yunfei saw that the situation wasn't good. So, he hastily retreated. Then, he grinned at Qin Feiyang and disappeared. What a bunch of unreliable guys. Qin Feiyang shook his head and muttered, his face full of helplessness. But when it came to feelings, he still believed in what he had always thought. When two people were together, at least they loved each other, and it was not a one-sided love. Perhaps some people would say that he was old-fashioned, but he was such a person who was responsible for feelings and the future. Time passed quietly. Half an hour later, everyone returned. Not a single hive was left. They were all swept away. Next, the Ant Emperor, Spider Emperor, Crocodile Emperor, and Li Jian entered Ling Yunfei's space divine object and continued to comprehend the profound meaning of becoming a god. Wolf King, Fatso, and the others also entered the castle and continued to cultivate in seclusion. Qin Feiyang and Ling Yunfei stood side by side on the back of the Scorpion Emperor and rushed towards the southwest. Ling Yunfei laughed, thinking back to when we were in Black Bear City. "I didn't think that we would have today's achievements." "Yeah." Qin Feiyang nodded. "Back then, we were still wet behind the ears. Although we haven't reached the point where we can cover the sky with one hand, we can still be considered as the overlords of a region. Time passes so quickly." Ling Yunfei sighed. "But the past seems like it just happened yesterday," Qin Feiyang said. Ling Yunfei turned to Qin Feiyang and patted Qin Feiyang on the shoulder, comforting, "I believe that auntie will be fine." "Thank you." Qin Feiyang smiled. After a moment of silence, Qin Feiyang suddenly looked at Ling Yunfei and said, "Uncle Yuan should know the whole truth. You have been with him for so long, has he ever told you? If you still treat me as a brother, tell me the truth." "Of course I treat you as a brother, but Uncle Yuan really didn't say anything." After Ling Yunfei finished speaking, he pondered for a while and said, "But there is one person who should know." "Who?" Qin Feiyang was surprised and doubtful. "Jiang Qianqin." "No, it's Jiang Zhengyi," Ling Yunfei said. Qin Feiyang was stunned and asked suspiciously, "How does he know?" "Because he is the one who has always been with Uncle Yuan. There are many things that Uncle Yuan has entrusted to him. And me, Qingzhu, Shuang, Ling, and I were just arranged by Uncle Yuan to cultivate in a place. Except for visiting us occasionally, we rarely see him," Ling Yunfei said. "Where is Jiang Zhengyi now?" Qin Feiyang asked. "Imperial Palace," Ling Yunfei said. "What?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. Ling Yunfei said with a smile, "He has been lurking in the Kirin army. On one hand, he is ordered to monitor the Imperial Palace's movements, and on the other hand, he is paying attention to your news." "On Uncle Yuan's orders?" Qin Feiyang asked. "Yes." Ling Yunfei nodded. Qin Feiyang smiled helplessly. He really didn't expect Jiang Zhengyi to be so close. "Okay, I'm going to the spatial divine item to deal with the beehive. Send me to the castle," Ling Yunfei said. Qin Feiyang said, "After dealing with it, find some jade bottles, fill them with beehive, and distribute them to everyone in case of emergency." "Okay." Ling Yunfei nodded. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and Ling Yunfei suddenly disappeared. Scorpion King said, "Boss Qin, I really didn't expect you to have so many people around you. You even call a creature like the wolf brother. I really admire you. What's wrong with the wolf?" Qin Feiyang smiled. Scorpion King sneered, "Wolves are recognized as a creature without conscience. Otherwise, why would they have the title of white-eyed wolf?" "Not necessarily. Every creature has a good and evil side. It depends on how you treat them. Aren't species like you also ferocious in the eyes of the world? But now, aren't you getting along well with me? Treat each other with sincerity, heart for heart." Qin Feiyang smiled. "Treat each other with sincerity, heart for heart. I finally understand why the Wolf King and Spirit Serpent Emperor are so loyal to you. It's because you have a sincere heart that doesn't discriminate against us ferocious beasts," the Scorpion Emperor muttered with a smile. "Not only them, but I also have many beasts around me. For example, pangolin, winged snow eagle, black dragon snake, flood dragon. There are also thunder leopards, seals, seahorses, and so on that haven't entered the divine sight. There are even divine beasts," Qin Feiyang said. "What divine beast?" Scorpion King was surprised. "Fire Qilin," Qin Feiyang said. "Fire Qilin." Scorpion King was dumbfounded. "This is a real divine beast, one that's rarely seen in a million years. Where is it now?" Scorpion King asked. Qin Feiyang said, "It's also in the divine sight. I believe it won't be long before we find it." Scorpion King's eyes were full of expectation. Then, as if he thought of something, he said, "However, it's very dangerous with a divine beast here." "Why?" Qin Feiyang was surprised. "The bloodline power of a divine beast is very tempting for beasts like us. Because the flesh and blood of a divine beast can allow us to transform. Sometimes, if we're lucky, we can even evolve after drinking some blood," Scorpion King said. Qin Feiyang frowned. It seemed that he had to find Fire Qilin as soon as possible. After all, with Fire Qilin's current cultivation, it wasn't enough to run rampant in the first level. He immediately closed his eyes and carefully sensed Fire Qilin's location. Southeast. The distance between the two should take more than 10 days according to the speed of Scorpion King and the other three beasts. Southeast, southwest, the difference wasn't too big. And according to his senses, Fire Qilin was also moving southwest. Since it was moving, it meant that Fire Qilin was still fine. When he found Dan Wangkai, he should be able to make it in time. After all, Dan Wangcai's strength wasn't as strong as Fire Qilin. Qin Feiyang opened his eyes and looked southeast. He said to Scorpion King, "I'll go to the castle to cultivate. You continue on your way. Inform me immediately if there are any changes." "Okay. By the way, don't let the Ant Emperor and the rest replace me for the next few days," Scorpion King said. "Why?" Qin Feiyang was stunned and asked. "Just take it that I'm at a disadvantage. Let them stay in the spatial divine item and comprehend the profound meaning of becoming a god. Besides, I'm already used to the climate here. It doesn't matter how long I stay outside," Scorpion King said. Qin Feiyang said in surprise, "I didn't expect you to be such a warm-hearted guy. Don't praise me. I'll fly." Scorpion King chuckled and stopped. "It would be great if you could really fly into the sky." Chapter 1488. Time passed quickly. 9 days had passed outside. 9 days outside, but a full 90 days had passed inside the castle. The white-eyed wolf, Lu Hong, Fatso, Lu Zheng, and the spirit snake emperor had all made breakthroughs in their cultivation. As for the Miss of the Dragon Phoenix House and Luo Qingzhu, they were both 9-star war emperors, so it was naturally not easy for them to break through again. As for Ling Yunfei, these days, he had been processing the beehive in the spatial divine object and had never shown his face. As for Qin Feiyang, after this period of copying, he had only completed a small part of the 5th stroke. It was equivalent to a quarter. Compared to when he was copying the 4th stroke, the speed of copying had increased by several times. However, Qin Feiyang was already very satisfied. After all, according to the time outside, it had only been 9 days. This morning, a large canyon appeared in front of him. Inside the canyon, there was still not a single blade of grass growing, but the ground was filled with bones, as if it was hell. The Scorpion Emperor slammed on the brakes and stopped in front of the canyon. He looked at the canyon with fear in his eyes and whispered, "Boss Qin, come out quickly." Swish. Not long after he finished speaking, Qin Feiyang appeared on the back of the Scorpion Emperor. Looking at the canyon in front of him, his pupils constricted slightly as he asked in surprise, "Why are there so many bones?" These bones were all bones of fierce beasts. The Scorpion Emperor said, "This place is called the White Bone Canyon. There is a group of people who eat people without spitting out the bones. I think it's best to take a detour." "Eat people without spitting out the bones? What is it?" Qin Feiyang was suspicious. "Ghost wolf," the Scorpion Emperor said. "Ghost wolf." Qin Feiyang was surprised. This was actually another creature that was as famous as the Spirit Snake Emperor. It was born without any aura, like a ghost walking in the night. And the ghost wolf also had a kind of innate ability. They could absorb the essence of the moon and raise their cultivation by 4 small realms in an instant. In other words, at night, the ghost wolf was an extremely terrifying creature. However, during the day, their innate ability could not be activated. It was passed down. In ancient times, people who wanted to hunt the ghost wolf during the day. But it was not easy to hunt the ghost wolf. Firstly, he couldn't sense their auras. Secondly, they would only come out to hunt at night and would usually hide during the day. It was very difficult to find them. Why do I hate wolves so much? It's because of these ghost wolves that occasionally come to harass us. Look at the bones here, some of them are my clansmen, Scorpion Emperor said in disgust. Qin Feiyang carefully observed the white bones on the ground, and he really did find some corpses of spirit demon scorpions. He pondered for a moment. Qin Feiyang asked, "How long will it take if we take a detour?" The mountains on both sides of the slanting valley are also the territory of the ghost wolves. If we want to bypass the wolf pack, it should take about half a month, the Scorpion Emperor said after pondering for a moment. Half a month? Qin Feiyang was speechless. Fire Qilin, Dan Wangcai, Viper, and the others were in an unknown situation. He didn't know if they were in any danger. Therefore, time was equivalent to life. He couldn't afford to waste half a month. He had to pass through this place as soon as possible. Right. There's one more thing I haven't told you. These ghost wolves also control a water source. The Scorpion Emperor said. What? There's a water source here? Qin Feiyang was surprised. Yes, it's at the end of the canyon. The Scorpion Emperor nodded. This, Qin Feiyang was stunned. He originally thought that there was only one water source in the miracle. There are many water sources in the miracle. As far as I know, there are 5 water sources within a radius of 1,000,000 miles, but without exception, they are all occupied by powerful beast emperors. Moreover, these beast emperors are the same as the little crocodiles. They all have a divine artifact. The Scorpion Emperor said, his eyes full of desire. 5 water sources, and they all have a divine artifact. Qin Feiyang was dumbfounded. Didn't this mean that as long as he found the other 4 water sources, he could get 4 more divine artifacts? His breathing suddenly became rapid. No wonder Emperor Hong didn't hesitate to put down his face and kneel to him to get a cluster of alchemy fire from him to enter the miracle. With so many divine artifacts, who didn't want them? Not to mention getting all of them, as long as they got 1 or 2, it was enough to dominate a region. Originally, he didn't want to take a detour. Now that he heard that there was a water source at the end of the canyon, he couldn't take a detour. You know. The water source here must also have Kuei water essence. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and said with a smile, let's go directly into the canyon. Are you sure? The Scorpion Emperor said. Of course. Qin Feiyang nodded and smiled. You know there are tigers in the mountain, but you still go to the Tiger Mountain. The Scorpion Emperor shook his head helplessly, moved his huge body, and ran directly into the canyon. Under its trampling, the bones on the ground were crushed. That sound made one's scalp tingle. Ayo. Less than 10 breaths into the canyon, a wolf howl suddenly sounded in front. The Scorpion Emperor's body stiffened and involuntarily stopped. Looking forward, he saw a giant wolf standing on a stone platform halfway up the mountain half a mile away. Its body size was more than 10 meters. The hair all over its body was black and gray. Its 2 fierce eyes were blood red, like 2 red lanterns, glowing with a bloodthirsty light. It really is a ghost wolf. Qin Feiyang muttered. Moreover, its cultivation was not weak. 9-star War Emperor. The Scorpion Emperor scanned his surroundings vigilantly and said in a low voice, the appearance of a ghost wolf means that we are now surrounded by ghost wolves. Encirclement, Qin Feiyang muttered and looked at the 2 sides of the canyon. Sure enough, behind some rocks, one could find a huge head. Looking back again. More than a dozen 9-star War Emperor giant wolves were at the entrance of the canyon, cutting off Qin Feiyang and the Scorpion Emperor's retreat. These guys are really like ghosts. They surrounded us without anyone noticing. But don't worry, I'm here. Let's continue forward. Qin Feiyang said with a faint smile. The Scorpion Emperor nodded and walked forward while looking around. Looking at its cautious appearance, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but want to laugh, and said helplessly, can you hurry up? Do you only have this much courage? Who said that? The Scorpion Emperor seemed to have its tail stepped on and almost jumped up. Qin Feiyang laughed, if you're not afraid, why are you so timid? Who said I'm timid? I'm just being careful. The Scorpion Emperor said confidently. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled, and said, cut the crap, hurry up, don't be like a woman, dawdling. I'm not a woman. The Scorpion Emperor said angrily. The sharp claws under its feet waved crazily. It was as if there were countless kitchen knives chopping vegetables, turning into a stream of light and rushing forward. Ayo. Seeing that the Scorpion Emperor did not stop, but instead sped up, the giant wolf standing halfway up the mountain let out another long howl, shaking the canyon. The howl carried a trace of anger and threat. The Scorpion Emperor said angrily, "Roar your sister, look who this emperor is? Roar again and I'll chop you up." The giant wolf's eyes were filled with murderous intent. It leaped down and landed on the ground with a bang, blocking in front of Qin Feiyang and the Scorpion Emperor. "Even the Wolf King has to give me some face, and you dare to block my way? Get out of my way right now," the Scorpion Emperor said angrily. The giant wolf glanced at the Scorpion Emperor and stared at Qin Feiyang. "You can pass through the Bone Canyon, but this human can't." The Scorpion Emperor said, "He's my friend. Do you think I'm stupid? As the Scorpion Emperor, would you be friends with a human?" The giant wolf sneered. The Scorpion Emperor said in a deep voice, "This is my business, you don't have to interfere. Stop pretending. We've received news about you, the Crocodile Emperor, the Ant Emperor, and the Spider Emperor. Your people have been slaughtered by humans. The water source ruled by the Crocodile Emperor has also been destroyed. And now, you've brought this human here for the water source. I'm warning you. If you don't want us to do it, let go of that human immediately. Otherwise, don't blame us for disregarding our old friendship and killing you too." The giant wolf laughed sinisterly. Presumptuous. The Scorpion Emperor was burning with anger. Not only did he not slow down, he even sped up and charged directly at the giant wolf. Stubborn. The giant wolf laughed sinisterly and retreated to the side like lightning. The Scorpion Emperor swept past and snorted, "If you dare to block the way again, I won't show mercy." With that, he left without looking back. The giant wolf did not chase after him. He walked to the center of the canyon and looked at the backs of the Scorpion Emperor and Qin Feiyang. The wolves lurking around also came out one by one and gathered behind the giant wolf. They stared at the man and beast, their eyes flashing fiercely. Suddenly, one of the ghost wolves retracted his gaze and looked at the giant wolf. "Do you want to kill them?" "No hurry." The giant wolf looked up at the sky and sneered, "They need at least 3 days to pass through the Bone Canyon. We have plenty of chances." The group of ghost wolves heard and immediately laughed sinisterly. At the same time, in the canyon, Qin Feiyang stood on the back of the Scorpion Emperor and looked up at the 10 suns in the sky, his face full of worry. "Did you see that, boss? That little wolf cub was so scared by me that he didn't dare to make a sound. Now, he still dares to say that I'm afraid of everything?" The Scorpion Emperor said proudly. Sigh. Qin Feiyang heaved a long sigh. "What are you sighing for?" The Scorpion Emperor was puzzled. Qin Feiyang did not answer and asked, "With your speed, how long will it take to pass through the Bone Canyon?" The Scorpion Emperor thought for a moment and said, "It should take 3 days and 3 nights. 3 days and 3 nights, Qin Feiyang murmured and sighed, "That confirms my guess even more." "What guess?" The Scorpion Emperor was suspicious. Qin Feiyang said, "Those ghost wolves didn't attack just now not because they were scared by you, but because they planned to attack at night." "At night?" The Scorpion Emperor was surprised. "That's right. You have the cultivation of the peak realm, and their strongest is only a 9-star war emperor, so they know that they can't kill you during the day. But at night, when the moon comes out, they can activate their innate ability. And according to the ancient records, their innate ability is enough to increase their cultivation to the peak realm of 9-star war emperor. Based on your familiarity with the ghost wolves, I believe you should know this as well." Chapter 1489. Hearing Qin Feiyang's words, Scorpion King's heart sank. Previously, it had never thought about this problem. Qin Feiyang said, "There should be many 6-star combat emperors and ghost wolves in this canyon." Scorpion King said, "As far as I know, there are at least 50,000 of them. That's a terrifying number." Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled bitterly. If the ghost wolves didn't have this innate ability, it wouldn't matter. Because he, Scorpion King, the 4 beasts, and Li Jian could kill their way out. However, The innate ability of the ghost wolves was too terrifying. It increased their cultivation by 4 small realms. As long as a 6-star combat emperor ghost wolf activated its innate ability, its cultivation would increase to the peak of a 9-star combat emperor. In other words, once night fell, the cultivation of these 50,000 ghost wolves would all soar to the peak realm. 50,000 wolves at the peak of a 9-star combat emperor, what kind of concept was that? Even if he used all his means without holding back, he wouldn't be able to withstand it. After all, whether it was a divine weapon or a divine art, there was a limit. Hearing Qin Feiyang's words, Scorpion King's heart couldn't help but beat faster. But he had already used his maximum speed and couldn't speed up any further. Time passed quietly. Night gradually fell. A full moon slowly rose from the west. In the canyon, there was no sound at all. It was unusually quiet. Qin Feiyang and Scorpion King were unknowingly on guard. Finally, the full moon rose. Howl. Wolf howls broke the silence of the canyon, piercing through the clouds and resounding through the earth. Boom. Following closely, wisps of terrifying auras burst out from the canyon and the mountains surrounding it. There were 6-star combat emperors, 7-star combat emperors, 8-star combat emperors. There were also 9-star combat emperors. But in less than 10 breaths, these auras all soared to the peak of a 9-star combat emperor, shaking the mountains and rivers. Moreover, Qin Feiyang and Scorpion King could still clearly sense that these auras were surging towards them from all directions. Boss, what should we do? Scorpion King looked flustered. With so many ghost wolves at the peak of the 9-star combat emperor realm, there was no way to continue playing. Qin Feiyang didn't answer. He glanced at the dark canyon in front of him, his eyes flickering. He could already faintly see pairs of green eyes. There was a bone-piercing sharpness in his eyes, as well as a shocking murderous aura. It was the same at the rear. The figures of ghost wolves quickly emerged from the mountains on both sides of the canyon. Before a large number of wolves arrive, I'll kill as many as I can and stack my cultivation as soon as possible. Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice. Boom. The kill formula was instantly activated. A monstrous murderous intent transformed into a blood-red storm that roared in all directions. Roar. As soon as the killing intent appeared, it was like poking a hornet's nest. The ghost wolves standing on the giant peaks on both sides of the canyon immediately bared their fangs and pounced down, heading straight for Qin Feiyang. At a glance, there were no less than 100 of them. Each ghost wolf was 30 to 40 meters long. Its fur was like steel needles, sharp and threatening. Humph. Qin Feiyang snorted from his nose and directly evolved the second move of the Divine Dragon art, Divine Dragon Roar. Roar. The purple-gold Divine Dragon roared toward the sky. Invisible sound waves surged in all directions. Boom. Crack. The giant peaks on both sides were shattered, dust and smoke covering the sky. However, the sound waves did not cause any destructive damage to the ghost wolves that pounced down. After all, Qin Feiyang's current cultivation had not been stacked yet. He was only a 5-star combat emperor. However, the sound waves left wounds on the bodies of the ghost wolves. Fresh blood flowed out continuously. It was all absorbed by the kill formula on Qin Feiyang's glabella. His aura was becoming stronger bit by bit. Human, go to hell. 3 ghost wolves were the first to pounce. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws, looking extremely ferocious. Clang. Qin Feiyang took out the Chang Shui without hesitation and threw it out casually. With a flash, a bloody hole immediately appeared in the glabella of 2 ghost wolves. Blood spurted out like a fountain. At the same time, the Scorpion Emperor raised his huge tail and slapped a ghost wolf away. Boss, this won't do. There are too many of them. I'm afraid that before you can stack up your cultivation, we will have already died under their fangs. Just as the Scorpion Emperor spoke, more than a dozen ghost wolves pounced over. There were even more behind. Those dense pairs of green eyes made one's hair stand on end. Qin Feiyang's face was gloomy. Under the control of his mind, the Chang Shui was invincible. One by one, the ghost wolves were either seriously injured or killed on the spot. But this could not solve the urgent situation at all. His eyes flashed and he shouted, "Ling Yunfei, bring Li Jian and the Crocodile Emperor out to help." Before he finished speaking, inside the ancient castle, Ling Yunfei, the Crocodile Emperor and the other two beasts, as well as Li Jian, appeared out of thin air. Qin Feiyang also sensed it at the first moment and immediately pulled everyone out. But he did not call out Wolf King, Fatso, and the others. After all, their strength was too far apart from the ghost wolves. Even if they came out, they would not be of much help. Instead, they would drag everyone down. Seal of Nirvana. 9 Heavens Ice Phoenix. Li Water Scripture. As soon as they appeared, Ling Yunfei, Luo Qingzhu, and the Lady of the Dragon Phoenix House directly activated their divine arts and attacked one direction each. They were different from Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang was only a 5-star combat emperor now, but they were 9-star combat emperors. Once the divine arts were activated, even if the ghost wolves' cultivation was higher than theirs, they could not withstand the divine arts attack. Accompanied by agonizing cries, the ghost wolves were killed one after another. And all the blood was absorbed by Qin Feiyang, not a single drop was left. The Crocodile Emperor and the other two beasts also revealed their true forms. Together with Li Jian and Luo Qingzhu, they formed a circular line of defense on the periphery and fought the ghost wolves crazily. The Scorpion Emperor also joined the battle. Among the people present, only Qin Feiyang did not make a move. He was protected in the middle by everyone and stood upright. Fresh blood was rolling between his eyebrows. With the word "kill" as the center, it formed a blood-red vortex. His blood-red hair flew. Murderous intent filled the air. With the influx of fresh blood, his cultivation soared. 6-star combat emperor. 7-star combat emperor. 8-star combat emperor. Finally, his cultivation overlapped with that of a 9-star combat emperor. Follow me and kill. He finally made a move and activated the 4 moves of the ruins of the end. More than 10 ghost wolves in front of him instantly turned into a bloody mist. He took the lead and killed his way into the pack of wolves. Ling Yunfei, the rest, and the Scorpion Emperor followed closely on his left and right sides. The group of people did not hold back at all. They were bathed in blood and fought to open a bloody path. Boom! Qin Feiyang's cultivation also soared once again, reaching the peak of the superposition realm. The peak realm cultivation, coupled with the battle character secret art, armor, and various gods' secret arts, was simply invincible, leaving behind bloody corpses. Looking from afar, this piece of land was like an Azura hell, causing people to tremble in fear. Roar! Suddenly, an exceptionally loud wolf howl sounded in the depths of the mountains. It was deafening. The ghost wolves that were charging forward one after another all retreated in an instant and soon disappeared without a trace. The Scorpion Emperor said disdainfully, "I thought you were very powerful, but it turns out that you're just a so-so. Don't be careless," Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice. At the same time that the ghost wolves retreated, an uneasy premonition arose in his heart. Boom! The group of people advanced for a distance in the canyon. But suddenly, streaks of world-destroying aura erupted. With a bang, the giant peaks on both sides of the canyon were instantly reduced to ashes. At that moment, Qin Feiyang and the rest were shocked. There were at least tens of thousands of ghost wolves gathered in all directions. Each ghost wolf's cultivation had reached the peak of the 9-star War Emperor realm. They formed a circle and surrounded Qin Feiyang and the rest. Clansmen, kill! Suddenly, a long howl sounded from a certain place, shaking the night sky. Qin Feiyang and the rest immediately looked towards the source of the sound and saw a silver-gray giant wolf standing proudly on a mountain peak. Its body was more than 1,000 feet long. Its fierce eyes, which seemed to be cast in gold, were filled with arrogance and disdain. It was like a king, looking down at Qin Feiyang and the rest from afar. Not good. It's the Silver Wolf King. One of the rulers of the ghost wolves. His cultivation has reached the true peak realm. The Scorpion Emperor shouted. What's the peak realm? As long as he hasn't reached the false god realm, killing him is like slaughtering a dog. Ling Yunfei said contemptuously. The Scorpion Emperor glanced at him and said, don't be careless. As far as I know, it seems to have mastered a god art. What? God art? The eyes of Qin Feiyang and the rest trembled. Li Jian asked, wait, why do you say it seems? Can't you be sure? Yes. I can't be sure because I've never seen it use a god art. The Scorpion Emperor nodded. Then how do you know? Zhou Zheng was suspicious. The ghost wolves often come to my territory to cause trouble. Once, I caught a few ghost wolves and interrogated them. The Scorpion Emperor said. Damn. It seems that this is still a tough nut to crack. Ling Yunfei murmured. The Scorpion Emperor said, let's not talk about the Silver Wolf King first. Even if it's the other ghost wolves, they're not something we can fight head-on. Just as everyone was talking, the surrounding ghost wolves all surged with black battle chi. The battle chi surged and roared in the sky, turning into a huge wave that pounced towards Qin Feiyang's group from all directions. The numerous majestic mountain ridges and enormous peaks were like withered trees that couldn't withstand a single blow from the enormous waves, and they were shattered and transformed into nothingness. The earth was also shattering crazily. Even the void was twisting, as if it was about to crack. Quick! The Miss of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion shouted. The 4 moves of the Li Water Sutra, Weak Water, Shocking Waves, Black Water, and Li Water Thunder were all evolved one by one. The others did not dare to hesitate and immediately activated their battle chi. Either they evolved the strongest battle art, or they evolved the strongest divine art. The Scorpion Emperor and the other 2 beasts also activated their battle souls. Qin Feiyang even mobilized the Purple Gold Dragon Chi, Flaming Battle Chi, and Scarlet Sword Chi at the same time. Fire Phoenix Art. Eclipse Moon. Void Returning Art. Even the Perfect Battle Art, Guiyuan Sword Art, was evolved. For a moment, the entire area was enveloped in a vast divine aura. Ling Yunfei shouted, everyone guard one side, kill. Chapter 1490. Boom. Crack. The mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. The void distorted. A series of deafening sounds resounded through the sky. Puff. Li Jian and Zhou Zheng were the first to be unable to hold on. They spat out a mouthful of blood and were sent flying. Quick! Ling Yunfei shouted. The 2 of them lost control and a gap appeared. Black waves rolled over. Qin Feiyang's eyes darkened. The divine dragon seal appeared out of nowhere, carrying a monstrous divine might as it filled the gap. But at the same time, the Scorpion Emperor and the other 2 beasts also lost control. They spat out blood and were sent flying, severely injured on the spot. Before Qin Feiyang could catch his breath, he quickly evolved the 2nd and 3rd moves of the divine dragon art to fill the 2 gaps. But there were too many ghost wolves. And it was still increasing. In just this short period of time, the number had reached more than 20,000. The black waves covered the sky and the earth. Even Ling Yunfei, Luo Qingzhu, and the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion could no longer hold on. The divine art was collapsing and blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Qin Feiyang was not feeling well either. Li Jian and the other 2 beasts were injured and could no longer help share the burden. He could only rely on himself. Ling Yunfei spat out blood as he desperately resisted, roaring, "Boss, we can't go on like this. Quickly think of a way." Puff. Before he could finish his words, Luo Qingzhu and the young lady of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion also trembled. The two divine arts, Nine Heavens Ice Phoenix and Li Water Scripture, disintegrated in an instant. That huge black wave seemed to have found a vent and surged over. A fatal crisis was rapidly approaching. Other than Qin Feiyang, everyone else was panicking. Especially Li Jian and Zhou Zheng, their eyes were filled with despair. Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered. Although he could still continue to fight, he understood one thing even more. It was difficult to do it alone. Swish. He no longer hesitated. He immediately led everyone straight to the castle. Boom. As soon as they entered the castle, the divine arts outside dissipated one after another. The black waves crashed over, shattering the earth. Abyssal fissures spread out in all directions. Where is he? The wolves were in an uproar. Silver Wolf King, who was standing at the peak of the mountain, was also glaring at the place where Qin Feiyang and the others had disappeared. Divine spatial item. Suddenly, these 4 words burst out of its mouth. His eyes were filled with greed. Who would have thought that these humans actually had a spatial divine item in their hands? The Silver Wolf King cackled and ordered the wolves to continue surrounding the area, not giving Qin Feiyang and the others any chance to escape. Inside the castle. It's so easy to guess that we have a spatial divine object. This beast is too smart. Ling Yunfei said helplessly. That's not the point. The point is, how do we escape? Li Jian was deeply worried. Everyone lowered their heads in silence. Qin Feiyang suddenly smiled. He looked up at everyone and said, "Actually, it's not difficult to escape." He had heard of it. Everyone immediately looked at Qin Feiyang. The ghost wolf's innate ability can only be activated at night. And during the day, killing them is as easy as flipping one's hand. If they insist on pestering us, we can just travel during the day and cultivate in the castle at night. Qin Feiyang said. That's right. In this way, they can't do anything to us. Even if the Silver Wolf King really has a divine art, he won't be a threat to us. Ling Yunfei said. This is indeed a foolproof plan. However, this will delay a lot of time. The original 3-day and 3-night journey will probably take 6 or 7 days to get out of the White Bone Canyon. Scorpion King said. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and said, as long as everyone is safe, it doesn't matter if it takes a little time. Now I'm only worried about the situation of Dan Wangkai and the others. Quickly sense the location of Dan Wangkai and the others. After these few days of traveling, I think we shouldn't be too far away from them now. Ling Yunfei said. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded, closed his eyes, and carefully sensed through the slave seal. Everyone also took a healing pill and began to heal their injuries. A moment later, Qin Feiyang suddenly opened his eyes, and 2 rays of light burst out of his eyes. What's wrong? Everyone looked at him in surprise. The pangolin, viper, winged snow eagle, and black dragon snake are still a little far away from us. But Dan Wangkai and Fire Qilin are actually right in front of us. It's about 2 days' journey. Qin Feiyang said. What? Right in front? About 2 days' journey? They can't be at the water source, right? Everyone was surprised. Because the water source was right in front of the White Bone Canyon. And the distance was not much different. That's what I think. Qin Feiyang nodded. Ling Yunfei said, so, Dan Wangkai and Fire Qilin have already met up? I don't think so. There's still some distance between the two of them. One is in the east, and the other is in the west. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Luo Qingzhu said, then sense again if they have moved. Qin Feiyang nodded and closed his eyes. 100 breaths passed. Qin Feiyang opened his eyes and shook his head. They haven't moved. If they haven't moved, it means that they might be hiding from vendetta, or waiting for something. But we can basically confirm that the two of them are at the water source. Ling Yunfei said. Hiding from vendetta. Fatso's eyes trembled, and he said, Kid, don't scare us. Although Fire Qilin and Dan Onesai's strength was not bad, one had to know that they were at the divine site. Many of the people who entered the divine site this time were 9-star combat emperors. For example, the main tower and the Great Qin Imperial Palace were all 9-star combat emperors, and there was no lack of peak super experts. With Fire Qilin and Dan Onesai's cultivation, they could only be considered as the bottom characters at most. Ling Yunfei smiled and said, I'm just guessing. Maybe they're hiding at the water source to cool off. I'm not in the mood to joke with you. Fatso rolled his eyes at him. No matter what, at least they're still alive. Hurry up and cultivate and recuperate. Qin Feiyang let out a long breath and waved his hand. An image appeared in the void in front of him. The image showed the scene of the ghost wolves outside. The wolf pack did not disperse. The Silver Wolf King was also there. He stood proudly at the top of the mountain like a king. After watching for a while, Qin Feiyang withdrew his gaze, turned around, and walked to the front of the altar to copy the 5th stroke of the Xing formula. Although it was only one night, according to the ancient castle's time rules, one night was equivalent to 5 days. He could not waste this time in vain. Time flew by. The next day, clear. 10 suns rose slowly. Qin Feiyang closed the 6-word formula, closed the iron box, and turned to look at the image. The wolf pack was still there. And the number was several times more than last night, but they had all fallen to their original cultivation level. Other than the Silver Wolf King, the strongest ghost wolf was the 9-star combat emperor. The Scorpion King jumped up and landed on Qin Feiyang's shoulder. Looking at the wolf pack in the image, he pursed his lips and said, the ghost wolves above the 6-star combat emperor level should be almost all here. They're all here, Qin Feiyang pondered and did not say anything. A plan emerged in his mind. Let's kill them directly. They chased us desperately last night. Now it's time for us to hunt them down. Ling Yunfei said, his eyes flashing with murderous intent. The ghost wolves that had not activated their innate ability were no different from other beasts. Except for Fatso, Lu Hong, the Wolf King, and the Ghost Snake Emperor, all the people and beasts present could instantly kill a large number of them. Don't waste time. Since all the ghost wolves above the 6-star combat emperor level have come here to surround us, then the strongest ones in the other places are the 5-star combat emperor level ghost wolves. As long as we escape from this encirclement without anyone noticing, no one will be able to stop us. Qin Feiyang laughed. Ling Yunfei asked, then I want to ask you, how do you escape without anyone noticing? Ha! Qin Feiyang grinned and activated the concealment art. His entire body, including the Scorpion King standing on his shoulder, instantly disappeared from everyone's sight. So it's the concealment art. The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house shook her head and laughed. I still have to thank you. You gave me the concealment art. In the past, this concealment art saved my life at critical moments. Qin Feiyang's laughter came out from the void. The young lady of the Dragon Phoenix house rolled her eyes and said, I regret it now. Give it back to me. That's where you're wrong. How can you give it away and ask for it back? After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he left the ancient castle and appeared in the encirclement of the ghost wolves. However, the surrounding ghost wolves all turned a deaf ear to it. None of them could see Qin Feiyang and the Scorpion King. The Scorpion King was amazed and sent a sound transmission, Boss Qin, how many more tricks are you hiding that we don't know? Qin Feiyang laughed secretly, other than the 3,000 incarnations and the 4th style of the divine dragon art, you guys know about all my tricks. 3,000 incarnations? The 4th style of the divine dragon art? The Scorpion King was stunned. The 3,000 incarnations were snatched from Zhuge Mingyang in the past. It can be considered my trump card. But now, I haven't completely comprehended it. As for the fourth style of the divine dragon art, after saying this, Qin Feiyang fell silent. What's wrong with the fourth style? The Scorpion King sent a sound transmission. This fourth style can't be used until the last moment. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Why? Is it so powerful that even you can't control it? The Scorpion King was bewildered. Qin Feiyang secretly said, the fourth style doesn't have any power at all. It's even useless to the current me. How is that possible? The first, second, and third style of the divine dragon art are already so ridiculously strong, let alone the fourth style. The Scorpion King didn't believe it. You'll understand in the future. I can only tell you that when I activate the fourth style of the divine dragon art, it will be the time of my death. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled, then took a step forward and quietly walked towards the wolf pack. Die in the Yellow Springs. So serious? The Scorpion King was secretly shocked. However, he didn't ask any further. Not long later, Qin Feiyang escaped from the encirclement of the ghost wolves without anyone noticing. Then, without any hesitation, he ran along the canyon. Along the way, he also encountered many ghost wolves. However, their cultivation did not surpass the 6-star War Emperor. Qin Feiyang did not provoke them either. An hour passed very quickly. Once the time limit of the concealment art was up, Qin Feiyang and the Scorpion King were immediately exposed. Chapter 1491. As soon as Qin Feiyang and the Scorpion King appeared, the ghost wolves around the canyon immediately noticed them. Roar! A group of 5-star combat Emperor ghost wolves immediately bared their white fangs and pounced towards them. Scram! The Scorpion King glared angrily as a terrifying aura erupted. At that moment, the group of ghost wolves turned around and fled in fear. It's the Scorpion King. And that human. Weren't they surrounded by Lord Silver Wolf King? Why are they here? The other ghost wolves around were also extremely surprised and bewildered. One of the ghost wolves roared, quickly inform Lord Silver Wolf King. You're courting death. The Scorpion King's eyes surged with killing intent. Ignore them. Even if they run to inform the Silver Wolf King now, the Silver Wolf King won't be able to catch up with us. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and strode forward, quickly disappearing at the end of the canyon. The Silver Wolf King's cultivation was at the peak realm. And Qin Feiyang's cultivation was also at the peak realm. Moreover, he still had the perfect auxiliary technique, phantom steps. So there was no need to worry at all. Roar! After Qin Feiyang and the Scorpion King left, wolf howls continuously sounded in the canyon. The ghost wolves were also smart. They didn't run to inform the Silver Wolf King. Instead, they used this special voice transmission method to convey to the Silver Wolf King layer by layer. It was both fast and effortless. About half an hour passed. The news finally reached the Silver Wolf King. What? He actually escaped. Then what are we still waiting here for? Bastard, how dare you fool me? Chase after him. The Silver Wolf King was furious. He immediately led tens of thousands of ghost wolves and chased after Qin Feiyang. However, after passing on the message for less than an hour, Qin Feiyang had once again pulled a long distance away. How could they possibly catch up to him? Time flew by. Night fell once again. A 9-star combat Emperor Ghost Wolf ran in front of the Silver Wolf King and said in a deep voice, "My lord, that human is too fast. We can't catch up with him at all." "I don't care. Spread the news immediately. Even if you have to self-destruct, you must stop him for this king." Silver Wolf King said harshly. Understood. The Ghost Wolf nodded and let out a howl that shook the sky. Following closely. In the distance, a series of howls could be heard. At this very moment, Qin Feiyang was still running madly in the canyon. The Scorpion Emperor was napping on his shoulder. Because along the way, not a single ghost wolf dared to run out and block the way, there was no place for it to use. Gradually, a strange giant peak came into Qin Feiyang's sight. The gigantic mountain towered into the sky. It was pitch black and sat on the left side of the canyon. It looked like a wolf. Qin Feiyang looked at the giant peak curiously and said, "Scorpion Emperor, what do you think that is?" The Scorpion Emperor opened his eyes and looked up. He pursed his lips and said, "That is the Silver Wolf King's lair." "So it's like that." Qin Feiyang nodded his head in realization and said, "Oh right, I heard you say last night that the Silver Wolf King is one of the rulers of the Ghost Wolves. Other than the Silver Wolf King, who else is there?" "There's also the Golden Wolf King. But don't worry, that guy is the same as the little crocodile. He usually stays at the water source," the Scorpion Emperor said. Qin Feiyang said, "So, the divine artifact is also on him?" "Yes." The Scorpion Emperor nodded. "What divine artifact? Have you seen it before?" Qin Feiyang asked. "Yes. It's a divine bow, it has the power to destroy everything. I remember that more than 500 years ago, the Golden Wolf King fought with the little crocodile. That divine bow and the little crocodile's armor were almost on par," the Scorpion Emperor said. "Divine bow." Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. When he got this divine bow, plus the armor and the 10,000 beasts diagram, he would have 3 divine artifacts. As for Chang Shui and the castle, it was a different story. Wait. Suddenly, the Scorpion Emperor seemed to have thought of something and shouted. Qin Feiyang braked and asked in surprise, "What's wrong?" The Scorpion Emperor said, "Last time I caught a few ghost wolves, I heard them say that there seemed to be a lot of treasures in the Silver Wolf King's lair, which were all plundered from various places in the past." "Really?" Qin Feiyang asked. The Scorpion Emperor looked up at the giant peak and shook his head. "I haven't seen it with my own eyes, but those ghost wolves shouldn't lie to me. Since that's the case, let's go up and take a look." Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed as he ran to the front of the giant peak. Like an agile ape, he grabbed onto rocks and quickly climbed up the mountain. When he was halfway up the mountain, the Scorpion Emperor's pupils constricted as he sent a sound transmission. "There seems to be a ghost wolf up there." "It doesn't matter." Qin Feiyang laughed coldly. Not long later, he climbed over a rock and climbed to the top of the mountain. Above, there were many rocks. More than a dozen ghost wolves were patrolling the top of the mountain like guards. Moreover, they all had the cultivation of a 9-star war emperor. The dozen or so ghost wolves also discovered Qin Feiyang and the Scorpion Emperor at the first moment. They immediately activated their innate ability and their cultivation soared crazily. Die. Qin Feiyang's gaze turned cold as he activated the phantom steps. Like a ghost, he flashed again and again. In less than 3 breaths, it was a dozen or so ghost wolves. With a wail, they fell to the ground and died. There was a fist-sized bloody hole between their eyebrows. Then, Qin Feiyang did not delay at all and began to search the top of the mountain. Not long after, he found a dark cave entrance beside a pile of rocks in the middle of the mountain peak. A flaming battle chi swept into the cave, illuminating all directions. Immediately, a huge grotto appeared in front of Qin Feiyang's line of sight. The grotto was 34 meters deep and had a diameter of more than 20 meters. Inside, there were countless gold coins, medicinal herbs, pills, and so on. How could there be so many treasures? Qin Feiyang was stunned. It's normal. There are quite a few treasures in the miracle. If we're lucky and find a big treasure, it's enough for us to squander for the rest of our lives. However, this kind of treasure can only be found by chance and not sought. To be honest, the number of treasures here also shocked me. I didn't expect that the Silver Wolf King had actually plundered so much over the years. But now, it's all ours. The Scorpion Emperor laughed complacently. Qin Feiyang was stunned, and said speechlessly, "So you're also a miser. Who doesn't want treasures? Even if it's useless, piling it up here, it's golden and beautiful." The Scorpion Emperor chuckled. Qin Feiyang smiled helplessly and took out a few empty Qianquan bags, ready to put them all in. But suddenly, he noticed that in the pile of gold coins, there was a half-meter wide iron box, which was rusty and had obviously been there for many years. He entered the grotto with a suspicious face, landed in front of the iron box, and carefully opened it. Immediately, he was dumbfounded. The Scorpion Emperor was also dumbfounded. Inside, there was a box full of jade scrolls. "Don't tell me they're all divine arts," the Scorpion Emperor murmured. Qin Feiyang came back to his senses, grabbed a jade scroll and said with a smile, "If it's a divine art, these jade scrolls will have some divine power, but now there's no divine power at all, which means that these are just battle arts." While speaking, he sank his mind into the jade scroll and was slightly stunned. Then he immediately grabbed another jade scroll and checked it again, and was stunned again. "What's wrong?" The Scorpion Emperor was puzzled. "The two jade scrolls in my hand are both perfect battle arts. Don't tell me that this whole box of jade scrolls are all perfect battle arts." Qin Feiyang swallowed his saliva. If that was the case, this box of jade scrolls was equivalent to a big treasure. Because, even in the capital and the central divine kingdom, perfect battle arts were rare, and any one of them could be auctioned for a sky-high price. And in this box, there were at least 50 or 60 jade scrolls. How much were they worth? Thinking of this, he hurriedly sent the iron box to the castle and let Ling Yunfei and the others check it carefully. Then, he put all the treasures in the grotto into his Qianquan bag and then sent it to the castle for Fatso and the others to count. The Scorpion Emperor smiled flatteringly, "Boss, if there's a perfect battle art suitable for me to cultivate, remember to give it to me. I don't have a goal. If you follow me, you must at least have a divine art, understand?" Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes and flew out of the grotto. Divine art? The Scorpion Emperor was stunned and smiled bitterly. "How would I dare to think about such a divine item? You have no ambition." Qin Feiyang shook his head, walked to the top of the mountain, glanced at the surrounding mountains and rivers, and then jumped down, landing in the canyon with a bang, and continued to rush forward. Damn it! They actually looted Lord Silver Wolf King's treasure. After Qin Feiyang left, a few ghost wolves climbed to the top of the mountain. When they saw the empty grotto, they were immediately furious and roared towards the sky. This news was passed to the Silver Wolf King's ears layer by layer. After learning about this, the Silver Wolf King was so angry that he vomited blood and almost fainted. But for this, Qin Feiyang was completely unaware. Even if he knew, he wouldn't sympathize. He would only sprinkle a few more handfuls of salt on the Silver Wolf King's body and make it more painful. Midnight. The Silver Wolf King's news finally came. Roar. A group of ghost wolves activated their innate ability and surrounded Qin Feiyang and the Scorpion Emperor. Some ghost wolves even self-destructed their bodies in an attempt to stop Qin Feiyang. But it was all in vain. Activating the battle word art and armor, they passed through as if there was no one around, leaving corpses and blood all over the ground. Because their cultivation was too weak. Even if they activated their innate ability, the strongest was only a 9-star war emperor. Occasionally, a peak realm ghost wolf would jump out, but they were all easily dealt with by Qin Feiyang and the Scorpion Emperor. After daybreak, the ghost wolves finally retreated. Even if they activated their innate ability at night, they couldn't stop Qin Feiyang's footsteps, let alone during the day. The results in the ancient castle were also out. As he expected, the jade slips in the box were all perfect battle arts. According to Ling Yunfei's voice transmission, there were a total of 56 jade slips. Among them, 45 perfect killing battle arts. The remaining 11 jade slips were all perfect auxiliary battle arts. As for medicinal herbs, there were also many rare medicinal herbs like the purple spirit flower, which could be said to be a bountiful harvest. Qin Feiyang also finally understood why the mysterious madam had so many perfect battle arts. This miracle was indeed worthy of its reputation. There were opportunities everywhere, and it depended on whether one was lucky enough to find them or whether one had the ability to obtain them. As for the gold coins, Fatso and the others were too lazy to count them. Because for them, gold coins were no longer tempting. It was just a number. The Scorpion Emperor looked up at the 10 suns rising from the horizon and said, "Boss, are you tired? If you're tired, go to the castle to rest. I'll take you on the road." Chapter 1492. It's okay. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, thought for a while, and said, "We have been on the road for 2 days and 2 nights. No. It's 2 days and 1 night. On the first night, we were cultivating in the castle." Scorpion King said. 2 days and 1 night, it will take 3 days and 3 nights to cross the entire canyon. In other words, we will need another day and 2 nights for the rest of the journey? Qin Feiyang asked. Yes. Scorpion King nodded and asked suspiciously, "Why do you ask?" Silver Wolf King is now left behind, we can also speed up. I have the perfect auxiliary technique, Phantom Steps, which can increase my speed by 4 times. At most, I will need another 4 to 5 hours to cross the White Bone Canyon. Qin Feiyang said. That's good. Scorpion King nodded repeatedly. Although the ghost wolves above 6-star Combat Emperor were left behind, it still couldn't help but feel guilty when night fell. Because the ghost wolves at night were too crazy, they didn't care about their lives at all. As long as Qin Feiyang activated Phantom Steps, he would be able to leave the White Bone Canyon before nightfall. At that time, he wouldn't have to worry about the ghost wolves. Whoosh! Without hesitation, Qin Feiyang immediately activated Phantom Steps, leaving behind afterimages, and disappeared at the end of the canyon like lightning. Along the way, not a single ghost wolf could stop him. At the same time, outside the canyon, there was a vast plain. On the plain, weeds grew, reaching the height of an adult. Ancient trees towered into the sky, and vines coiled around like dragons, full of vitality. After passing through the plain, there was an endless mountain range. Within the mountain, numerous towering peaks stood tall, exuding a majestic aura that shook one's heart. At this moment, 2 figures were hiding in a patch of weeds on top of an inconspicuous hill. They poked their heads out and stared at the ground below. It was a man and a woman. The man was middle-aged and had a burly body. His pair of dark eyes were like an eagle's, revealing a shocking sharpness. This person was none other than Dan Wangkai. However, it was Dan Wangkai in disguise. Even if Qin Feiyang were here, he wouldn't be able to recognize it. As for the woman lying beside Dan Wangkai, she was in her 20s. She had a graceful figure and a beautiful face. Her fine black hair was like a waterfall. Her hair emitted a faint fragrance. Her bright eyes were as bright as gems. However, her gaze was extremely cold, like the edge of a blade, piercing one's heart. However, within the coldness, there would occasionally be a hint of charm that tugged at one's heartstrings. Anyway, she was a beautiful woman who was both likable and frightening. If Qin Feiyang was here, he would definitely recognize her at a glance. She was Wang Su's granddaughter, Wang Yu. At this very moment, the 2 of them held their breaths and looked at the foot of the mountain. Below them was a valley. It wasn't big. It was about 1,000 feet long. In the valley, there was a 2 to 3 meter wide stream. The stream was so clear that one could see the bottom as it flowed. And in the grass beside the stream, there was a 1 meter long golden wolf lying on its stomach. Its entire body was covered in reddish gold fur, as if it was cast from gold leaf. It shone with a dazzling light under the sun, looking quite handsome. It was like a poisonous snake, hiding its aura in the grass and taking a nap with its eyes closed. However, its cultivation was extremely strong. It was at the peak of a 9-star combat emperor. However, this was not the main point. The main point was that half a meter away from the golden wolf, there was a big tree as thick as a bucket. The tree trunk was strong and upright. And on the tree, there were palm-sized fruits. The shape of those fruits was particularly strange. They were like newborn babies. Spiritual infant fruit. The most important medicinal ingredient for the spirit congealing pill. And the spirit congealing pill had the effect of condensing one's soul. Moreover, on the big tree beside the golden wolf, there were more than 20 spiritual infant fruits. I really didn't expect to encounter such a big spiritual infant tree. Dan Wangkai transmitted his voice, his eyes glowing green. For him, who valued alchemy as his life, nothing was more tempting than medicinal herbs. Wang Yuer glanced at Dan Wangkai and said to herself, the spiritual infant fruit is hard to come by in 10,000 years. Although it is a treasure, with that golden wolf here, we can only watch. Dan Wangkai looked at the golden wolf with his brows tightly knitted together. The Wolf King, who was at the peak of a 9-star combat emperor, was not someone he and Wang Yuer could deal with. What should he do? Was he going to miss it just like that? He was unwilling. Wang Yuer's eyes flashed slightly, and she said calmly, didn't you say that Qin Feiyang can sense your location through the slave seal? Yes. Dan Wangkai nodded. In that case, we'll wait here for Qin Feiyang to come and find you. I think with Qin Feiyang's methods, it should be easy to deal with this golden wolf. Wang Yuer suggested. Dan Wangkai was stunned. He turned to look at Wang Yuer and asked suspiciously, what do you mean by we? Are you going to keep waiting with me? Of course. More people to look after. Wait. Don't tell me you're going to kick me to the curb after I've outlived my usefulness. Don't forget that I'm your savior. Besides, the divine sight is so dangerous. How can you bear to let a woman like me walk alone? Wang Yuer snorted. How is that possible? A drop of water should be repaid with a gushing spring. But from what you're saying, you're planning to wait for the young master to come and walk with us? Dan Wangkai said to himself. Am I not welcome? Wang Yuer said. Of course you're welcome. Dan Wangkai smiled and hesitated. But what? Wang Yuer was suspicious. Miss Yuer, don't blame me for being too blunt. We know about the feud between you and the young master. Logically speaking, given your character, you should keep a distance from the young master. But now, you're planning to walk with us. This makes me suspect that you have ulterior motives. Dan Wangkai said to himself. I really admire your imagination. Yes, I hate Qin Feiyang. But I also know that given my strength, I won't be able to walk far in the divine sight alone. So, I need someone to protect me. Wang Yuer said expressionlessly. Dan Wangkai said in surprise, let the young master protect you? This is not like you, Wang Yuer. Then, what kind of character do you think I have? Qin Feiyang owes me so much. Shouldn't he protect me? Wang Yuer said angrily. This, Dan Wangkai smiled embarrassedly. Should he protect Wang Yuer? He really couldn't answer this question. You'll have to pay the debt you owe. Wang Yuer snorted and said, by the way, we've been together for a few days. You only said that you're Qin Feiyang's subordinate, but you haven't told me your name. What's your name? Dan Wangkai narrowed his eyes and said with a smile, I'm just a nobody. I'm not worth mentioning. To be able to be valued by Qin Feiyang and be taken under his command, how could he be a nobody? Just tell me if you don't want to tell me. Why bother making excuses? Wang Yuer sneered. Dan Wangkai smiled helplessly and turned to stare at the divine infant tree and the golden wolf. Wang Yuer raised her eyebrows and didn't ask further. At the same time, on the other side, a crimson ferocious beast was hiding behind a bush, also staring at the valley. It was the fire Qilin. But at this moment, it had restrained its energy and the flames on its body and shrunk its body to the size of a palm. No one knew of its existence. Even Dan Wangkai and Wang Yuer didn't know. Similarly, the fire Qilin didn't notice Dan Wangkai and Wang Yuer hiding opposite. Rustle. Suddenly, footsteps sounded at the entrance of the valley. Someone's here? The fire Qilin and Dan Wangkai immediately looked at the entrance. The golden wolf's ears twitched slightly, but it didn't open its eyes. The footsteps became more and more obvious. Finally, 3 men and 2 women entered the valley. The 5 of them were middle-aged and looked vigilant. They were all 9-star combat emperors. But the 5 of them were dressed differently. 2 of them and 1 of them was dressed in black with a flame symbol on their chest. The other man and woman were also dressed in black, but the insignia on their chests was a sword, and there was also a ferocious skull on the sword. 3 oracles and 2 enforcers. Why are they together? Dan Wangkai frowned. The oracles belonged to the Forgotten Continent. The enforcers belonged to the divine palace of the Great Qin Empire. Weren't the 2 forces enemies? Dan Wangkai didn't know that the divine palace and the Great Qin Empire had joined forces, so he looked at the 5 of them suspiciously. The 5 of them entered the valley and immediately discovered the spiritual infant tree. They were excited. They had encountered such a treasure. The 5 of them immediately ran toward the spiritual infant tree. Because they were too excited, the golden wolf had concealed its aura, and the surrounding grass was too dense to see the golden wolf. They hadn't discovered it yet. How dare you lay your hands on my spiritual infant tree? You must be tired of living. When King of Elixir saw this, a cold light flashed in his eyes. He turned his head and glanced at Wang Yuer. He sent a sound transmission to Wang Yuer. There are 3 divine envoys from your head tower. Don't you want to remind them? A bunch of careless idiots. They deserve to die. I don't want to expose our whereabouts by reminding them. Wang Yuer snorted. How cruel. Dan Wangkai murmured. The fire Qilin's eyes also flashed. Inside the valley, the 5 of them were very excited. They all activated their auxiliary battle techniques and ran toward the spiritual infant tree, afraid that they would be too slow. Although the golden wolf didn't move, its ears were trembling slightly. Seeing this, the fire Qilin and Dan Wangkai held their breaths. The golden wolf was like a poisonous snake that was hiding in the grass and slowly revealing its fangs. The 5 of them were like food that was being offered to the golden wolf. Wait. However, just as the 5 of them were about to reach the spiritual infant tree, a middle-aged woman suddenly stopped the other 4. What? The 4 of them raised their eyebrows and looked at her with dissatisfaction. There's danger ahead. The middle-aged woman scanned the grass and said in a low voice. Danger? The 4 of them were stunned and looked carefully. A woo. At this moment, the golden wolf roared and jumped out of the grass. Its body instantly grew from 1 meter to 50 to 60 meters tall, like a mountain. It opened its mouth and bared its fangs as it pounced toward the 5 of them. A pair of millstone-sized eyes flashed with a frightening ferocious light. This, Wolf King at the peak of the 9-star combat emperor realm. Run. Chapter 1493. But the golden wolf was too fast. The 3 divine envoys from the main pagoda screamed miserably as their bodies were bitten off by the golden wolf and swallowed. Seeing this, the 2 law enforcers from the temple were so scared that they wet their pants. Their faces were deathly pale. How dare you barge into my territory? You don't know what's good for you. The golden wolf laughed and its anger was monstrous. After swallowing the 3 divine envoys, it immediately pounced on the 2 enforcers. The 2 enforcers panicked and quickly used their battle arts to attack the golden wolf. The middle-aged man's battle art was a giant golden sword that exuded a sharp aura that could destroy the world. The woman's battle art was a giant python that bared its fangs and brandished its claws. Ants. But the golden wolf was not afraid. Roar. Accompanied by an earth-shattering beast roar. A golden light soared into the sky from its back. In the next moment, a golden beast shadow appeared above the golden wolf's head. It was also the shadow of a wolf. It was extremely huge and occupied the entire sky above the valley. Its ferocious aura shook the heavens and earth. This was the golden wolf's fighting soul. Roar. The fighting soul roared in the sky and its two thick claws swung out. It actually tore the battle skills that the man and woman had conjured into pieces. So powerful. The two enforcers were pale. The middle-aged man suddenly stopped and looked at the woman. Quickly inform Elder Gua and the others. What about you? The woman asked. The middle-aged man said, I'll try my best to restrain it. Okay. The woman nodded. But just as she turned and was about to leave, the middle-aged man's eyes flashed fiercely. He grabbed the woman's arm and threw her toward the golden wolf. The woman did not expect the middle-aged man to do this. She was not prepared at all. Do you really think I'll be so kind as to stall the golden wolf and let you ask for help? I'm just saying this to make you let down your guard. This way, it'll be easier for me to attack. The middle-aged man looked at the woman sarcastically and turned into a stream of light. He rushed out of the valley and into the forest outside. Bastard, you'll die a horrible death. The woman stared at the middle-aged man's back and roared. It's impossible for me to die. But don't worry, after I inform Old Gua, I will avenge you. The middle-aged man smiled coldly and disappeared into the forest without looking back. The woman's eyes were filled with hatred. But suddenly, behind him, a deadly sense of danger came. She quivered and hurriedly turned her head to look. She was instantly horrified. The fighting soul of the golden wolf had already pounced behind her, and was less than 10 meters away. His ferocious might covered the sky and covered the earth. A deep sense of despair rose in the woman's heart as she roared, Bastard, I'll die with you. Boom. She self-detonated her body without hesitation. A wave of chi that could destroy the world instantly spread out in the valley like a flood. Seeing this, the Fire Qilin, Dan Wangkai, and Wang Yuer turned and ran. What a joke. This was the self-destruction of a 9-star battle emperor. How terrifying was its destructive power. With their cultivation bases, they could not withstand it at all. At the same time, the golden wolf's pupils constricted as well. He quickly turned around and dashed in front of the divine infantry. Boom! Waves of battle aura rolled out, and a barrier appeared in an instant, protecting the nascent soul tree. Rumble. Crack. Almost in the next moment, accompanied by an earth-shattering explosion, the valley was instantly reduced to ashes. That destructive wave of air rushed out in all directions, toppling mountains and overturning seas. In an instant, the mountains were like wheat fields that were swept away by a strong wind, and they kept collapsing. The ground was also shaking violently and cracking crazily. Even 1,000 miles away was affected. From afar, the scene looked as if the end of the world had arrived. The Fire Qilin and Dan Wangkai were desperately running for their lives, and blood kept flowing out of their mouths. The chi wave was too terrifying. Even though they had run away immediately, they still suffered heavy injuries that could not be erased. Fortunately, they did not lose their lives. That was close. After escaping, Wang Yuer wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth and took a healing pill. She turned around and looked at the devastated ground, her face full of fear. Yes. If we were one step later, we would have died. I wonder how the golden wolf is now. Dan Wangkai said, his eyes full of worry. He was not worried about the golden wolf, but the spiritual infant tree. The spiritual infant tree was a treasure of heaven and earth, not to mention such a thick spiritual infant tree. It would be a pity if it was destroyed. Do you even need to ask? Although the Golden Wolf was at the peak state, the power of a 9-star combat emperor's self-destruction was enough to kill a peak state super expert. I think it must have turned into ashes along with the spiritual infant tree. Wang Yuer said coldly. Dan Wangkai frowned and suddenly turned into a stream of light, returning the way he came. What are you doing? Wang Yuer grabbed his arm. Dan Wangkai said in a low voice, let go. I want to see if the spiritual infant tree is still there. Are you crazy? Although the explosion has passed, the aftershock is still there. Just this remnant might alone is enough to kill you 1,000 times over and crush your bones. Wang Yuer shouted. But Dan Wangkai was unwilling to give up. Wang Yuer said, wait for the aftershock to dissipate. Don't die for nothing. All right. Dan Wangkai nodded and looked at Wang Yuer with a smile. Thank you. If you didn't stop me, I would have run over by now. You saved my life again. It's nothing. Wang Yuer waved her hand, but there was a glint in her eyes. Wait. Suddenly, Dan Wangkai's eyes flickered as he looked at the center of the explosion. His eyes were filled with bewilderment as he shouted, quickly sense it, is there a strand of godly aura? Divine power. Wang Yuer was shocked. She immediately calmed down and sensed it carefully. Soon, she said in disbelief, there really is divine power and it's coming from the spiritual infant tree. Is there a divine artifact hidden there? A divine artifact. Dan Wangkai's eyes lit up. On the other side, the fire Qilin stood on top of a giant mountain and looked at the center of the explosion with a hint of shock in its eyes. Obviously, it had also sensed the divine power. However, neither the fire Qilin nor Dan Wangkai ran back rashly. They waited quietly. Soon, they sensed that the divine power had disappeared again, as if it had never appeared. Time flew by, and half an hour passed. The aftershock had not dissipated and was still surging in the sky. Although an hour had passed and the remaining power had weakened significantly, if a battle saint were to enter this place, they would still die without a doubt. However, it was no longer a threat to Dan Wangkai and the fire Qilin. After all, they were all battle emperors. The two of them and the beast hid their auras and began to approach the spiritual infant tree. Nothing happened along the way. It was very smooth. However, because the mountains had collapsed and their vision had widened, the two of them and the beast were extra careful. After a while, the two of them and the beast finally approached the spiritual infant tree. They lay in a ditch and behind a pile of rocks and looked up. What? It's not dead. Immediately, their expressions changed. The valley had disappeared and was in pieces. However, the spiritual infant tree was not damaged at all. The golden wolf was lying under the spiritual infant tree. There were a few wounds on its body, but they were not serious and had already formed scabs. The self-destruction of a 9-star battle emperor only caused such little damage to it. The two of them and the beast could not believe it. Isn't this too ridiculous? Wang Yuer said telepathically, do you think the divine might from before was a divine artifact? Dan Wangkai was stunned and said, do you mean that the golden wolf is hiding a divine artifact? That divine artifact was protecting it and the spiritual infant tree? Wang Yuer said, how else can we explain all this? Dan Wangkai thought for a while and sighed. If that's the case, I'm afraid that even the young master can't do anything to the golden wolf. Not necessarily. The castle in Changshui is full of divine artifacts. In terms of numbers, Qin Feiyang has the advantage. Wang Yuer said. That makes sense. Dan Wangkai thought for a while and said with a smile, then let's stay here and wait for the young master to come to us. Okay. Wang Yuer nodded. But suddenly, Wang Yuer's pupils shrank and she looked to the left. What's wrong? Dan Wangkai was surprised. Shoo! Wang Yuer made a gesture to keep quiet. Her eyes were extremely solemn. Dan Wangkai also looked over. His expression changed slightly and his nerves immediately tensed up. From the left, a group of people were rushing over in an imposing manner. The leader was the middle-aged man who had escaped before. Behind him, there were at least 30 to 40 people. There were old and young. There were men and women. There were law enforcers from the temple. There were also oracles from the main tower. And their cultivation was all 9-star battle emperors. There were even 15 peak-level super experts among them. They've joined forces again. Could it be that your main tower has secretly formed an alliance with the National Master and Emperor Hong? Dan Wangkai turned to look at Wang Yuer and said in a deep voice. Even if there is an alliance, it's a matter between the higher-ups. How would a small fry like me know? Wang Yuer's expression did not change, and her tone was very calm. Dan Wangkai looked at Wang Yuer deeply. His eyes flashed and he continued to look at the group of people. 15 peak-level super experts and more than 29-star battle emperors. Such a lineup was really shocking. Young master, come quickly. Otherwise, the spiritual infant tree will fall into their hands. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.